somebody had their volume up. How did that happen? Was that because you're hosting it? Did you keep your volume up? You guys heard 2 tracks, right?
No,
I don't know.
Is that just me?
Yeah, you must have the video open in the background somewhere. You might have the video open on your browser.
Video open in the background. That was all me. I know I never do that, but I was getting it for the link. Okay,
you'll never be able to say that again.
I thought everybody heard the same thing I did, but I just heard the track playing against itself, and I was just like,
"You are the only one who hears what you do, David."
This is the new binaural version of the
derp alert. Sorry,
I realized we could really brand David better. We need to get the guy who did the Chihuahua voice, like that really Latin narrator voice. To be like, in 1986, when David was a little baby, I think we just need to go.
Well, I got my own Paranoid American card now. Apparently, I haven't seen it, but apparently
that's right. Well, it's going to start with the SyncTank card, but when we drop the Kubrick / Golden Bough comic, then we'll get our own cards and everything.
I saw your card, and then I thought I saw Andreas on a dolphin. Was that somebody else? Is that somebody else?
That was Donut down here because we released the Illuminati comics. So then he got his own card to release with that Illuminati. So that's what happens. You got to do a comic with me, and then you get your own card. It's like a process.
I was born in a dolphin-assisted birth, so ever since then, I've just been riding with the dolphins.
Do dolphins really help? I'm always afraid of what dolphins might carry.
There's been incidents of them eating the babies. So I've been
way worse. I was thinking they're going to raise you part dolphin or something.
They're like carnivorous, right? They just eat the baby right away. It's very controversial.
It's the Darwin survival, the fittest with the dolphins, Darwinian Malthusian practice that they follow.
The dolphin was also one of the animal symbols of the Phoenician goddess Tanit. So having dolphins eat your baby might actually be a good thing for your crops, at least.
Yeah, at least your first couple babies or something,
Sure.
The dolphins are super soldiers too.
Right. Well, I remember that guy. Are you talking about that old interview? What was that show called? Are you referring to the special ops guy who was shared his story about how he went through these portals and all this? So what are you talking?
Oh, but that sounds amazing.
Sounds like a project.
No, I need to know about this.
Yeah, soldier. Those guys were interviewing the super soldiers. What was that show from? Internet show.
Is it not Project Camelot?
Yeah, I'm totally talking about Project Camelot. And it's one of the better Project Camelot people was the guy who was bred to be part dolphin, so he could supposedly breathe underwater for extreme amounts of time and stuff. And they used him to go through the water portals because most people wouldn't survive it. And he says his first memory was like a bunch of people dying, but then he's like they take him out from the water and they're like, oh, one of them survived or whatever. And it's
that must be what Ashley St. Clair meant when she said that her baby with Elon Musk is going to have advantages from other organisms from its DNA profile.
The first thing I thought of was a glow-in-the-dark jellyfish. I just figured that they threw one of those in there just for fun.
Well, there's no reason why one should go down a rodent hole to learn the truth. You got to go through the dolphin blowhole to learn the truth.
I'm into that, brother.
Right, because the space dolphins left the retarded dolphins back here years ago, and they're just eventually, come back. But yeah.
So that dolphin, they hooked up some tech on it, but dolphins have been used to as spies as well.
And belugas. Russians use belugas a lot, apparently.
Yeah, dolphins are so fascinating to me, all the different research in MK Ultra with John C. Lilly and whatnot.
I thought it was on because of his appreciation for Echo, and it was just in your video, Thomas. I was trying to see. I was like, "Who's that riding the dolphin?" It's good to know it's you.
Yes. I also have a cat with me on that image, and if we're lucky, I can give I got a bong for my cat.
Bong for your cat?
Yeah.
See, that's right. He
can have glaucoma.
You put the substance in the chamber and it sucks it out of here. So my cat will give drugs later when he
if someone does a super chat, we'll give the cat a hit with the bong.
Well,
Bong.
Well, tell us why are we doing something slightly different? Where
I
did
figured
you tonight?
we should explain that. Yeah, so basically, I was like not gonna do the show because I can't do it on my channel on YouTube right now. But luckily, Thomas and David were like, "Yeah, we're still doing the show," and then we could use X, which is great because, you know, Elon Musk might have like a botched penile surgery on his micro penis, but God damn it, if he doesn't want us to have some free speech, all right? And that's God bless him for that.
So anyone watching that's not already subscribed to Xirtus, make sure you go back down and subscribe right now. Subscribe to all the people in the links so that when one of us gets our channels taken down, which will inevitably happen,
that's the real thing.
Next table.
Yeah, you should know if you're smart enough to be watching this right now, either through my X or better through Paranoid Americans YouTube, then you figured out the system is that the Xirtus will never end. But I don't know. Apparently, my Naropa stream, which I felt really good about, Raph and I did a great Naropa stream. We did, one with Stefan the day before that was kind of weird, but then we did a good one that was really solid, and just kind of was taken down 5 minutes later, and they said it was for medical misinformation, and I don't think we said anything like I mean, I don't remember, but I don't think
say whatever it was, just in case.
I don't think it was the thing. We weren't saying anything about that, so that's
all
why
I said was
I was just shocked. I don't think we brought up the thing, so I was the last one before that. Stefan was talking about it, and that one's still up. So I don't know why.
Was it Frizzle Trap? Were you guys talking about Frizzle Trap on there?
No, it was the sea crisis or whatever, which is what the episode prior, it was more emphasized what we were talking about, and that didn't have any problems. So I don't know why. No, the poser stream is the one that they thought made no sense and they left up. It was the one that was too clear.
You know what it is? You got the wrong. You gotta break the rules flagrantly and with no sort of care for the world. And even the algorithm's like, damn, this guy's got some alpha energy on this. But if you dance around, then you kind of present yourself as a hurt animal, and they go for the kill.
About the thing. Yeah, it's true. You got to be careful. You got to just go for it. I don't know. I think the bottom line is I feel free now that we're on X, and we can say what we want on X. We'll see what the waters are like here, but
there's two at the same time.
You can go right on Andreas Xirtus on Twitter, on X. That one's working fine, just not on the YouTube. So I feel like that's the better.
You're able to. I got you. All right.
Yeah, if you get hit, then you're not allowed to stream for a week, and if you get hit again, then you can't go for like 2 weeks, I think it is. And
if you get hit again, then they hold you over a bridge from your tennis shoes.
Dude. Right. At some point, is this going to be like the end to Pump Up the Volume, where we're just riding around in a vehicle with an antenna, getting the show out?
Like Alex Jones. Yeah. I think that's what you have to do. I just remember, like the early days of YouTubing and Facebook, actually even video, you could get like 20,000-30,000 views, and then David mentioned this a bunch, that the Egyptian election happened. All of a sudden you couldn't get your reach out anymore, and it got to the point where I was making multiple accounts on Facebook and getting pages made, and they get like 10, 20,000, 100,000, shut down, a new page up over and over again. But then they started tracking down my accounts and locking my accounts for like 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. And you're unable to communicate with your friends or family. And it's interesting how quickly in space, nobody can hear you scream. In a safe space, nobody can hear you scream. Right? That's where we're headed, or we're at, I guess.
There's something to be said about like the story of like how we got here and how important it is. And it's been coming up a lot. And I realize it's like been a continuing theme. Like when I was at the farmer's market every week tabling, like it's like, here's the communication around how we ended up where we're at and how significant that is to understand like the future and the present. And like, I keep coming up against this thing with people where they just like, they don't see why it matters, like how we arrived at it. Like you just mentioned, like the Egyptian protests. It's like that was the story. Like at the time, like I watched it happen in real time. It was like they used Facebook to organize the protests, and then all of a sudden, it was like the reach just like within a week of like that happening when it was really successful. It's like, oh wait, this is a problem. We can't allow this anymore. And it's been that way ever since. Where it got narrower and narrower. I
think the Egyptian Arab Spring, and the Egyptian elections are going to become more important than less. Kind of the way Ukraine was for a lot of Americans a sleeper issue from 2014 until 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. I mean, really, Americans didn't care until.
Yeah,
they're like, oh my God, have you seen what they're going on over there? Yeah, I was like,
It's the reflection is uncomfortable, or the cognitive dissonance. It's that people can totally talk about the find out because that's where we're headed, which is total insanity, but they don't want the F around. Like, they don't want to look at the F around. Like, you effed around, but you don't want to look at that. You'd rather look at, you don't want to look at the DNC's role in how the last 3 elections played out, but you do want to talk about this current administration and what's going, you know what I mean? Like, they don't want to look at the F's around, but they're okay to look at the found out that's why they can blame other people for the find out. Does that make sense? Anyway, Captain Obvious here.
And that was sort of around with Cyprus as well. And I think that whole thing that happened was it's a word I don't want to say, but having to deal with banks and money and runs as well, because Cyprus, this is like around the same time. As the
sure.
And they, I think, intentionally did that as like an algorithm, like some sort of Palantir algorithm in a sense, so they can see what would happen during something like that, because it was on an isolated island, so it was easy to manage. People couldn't go to different islands to go withdraw their funds and whatnot. So a lot of stuff happening right now. I'm trying to look at it through the lens of the AI and algorithms and computers.
I think also the election, right? Because 2014 was Abdel Fattah el-Sisi's first term. He's now in his 3rd term. What we think of as Egypt today happened during the Egyptian election.
Well, that was the joke, is that everyone would say at the time, they were like, he got the kind of Saddam Hussein treatment. And there's this idea of like, oh, well, you got the shadow government and all this stuff. And then they're like, okay, finally, okay, this is what you wanted. He's out, and they replace him with something even worse. It's just like what happened with Joy Reid just now. Like, Joy Reid is getting replaced by, I have to look it up again, but I was like, wait, that was that person who infiltrated Bernie's campaign, actually. Speak of the devil. Like, the woman that's replacing Joy Reid now is like just as bad, if not worse. So it's just like,
was it the lady that took the mic away from him on stage?
Is that what I'm trying to remember?
That would be pretty cool. Give her a show.
It's pretty fresh. I haven't had enough time to really delve into the whole but yeah, Jesus.
Well,
they can replace her with AI, I think, and it would be still a net gain, no?
Oh, the Egyptian leader, or what?
No, Joy Reid. They could replace Joy Reid with just AI.
I
thought
she was. But think about the workers, all the Joy Reids that are going to lose their job.
Until she cried last night, or whenever that was, yesterday, I wasn't sure she was AI or not, and now I can see that she is in fact human. That was a human that was on the television. So,
did you watch the movie Civil? I can't even say that word either, but War at the end with Kirsten Dunst.
Oh, Civil War. Oh yeah, dude.
I feel like if you rewatch and look at the president, everyone looks human, but he looks like AI. And I think that they changed the script. I have no proof of this, but if you just look at the cinematography, he's AI through the whole movie. And I think it was the story supposed to be a deep fake of the president. And they left that out of the story.
He's usually a comedian, so to look at it's like there's a weird effect that happens with stuff like that. It's why Jojo Rabbit's like such a good movie, or one of the reasons it's such a good movie, is that it catches you off guard because you're relating to it like it's a comedy, and then you come up against something dead serious. So it's like even that other guy who's like traveling with him who dies on the way, like that bigger guy, like that guy is like so known for comedy. So I don't know about you guys, but like when I'm watching somebody that I associate with comedy, it like catches my emotions off guard sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like Steve Carell trying to play a serious role. I just can't get into it.
Well, Bob Odenkirk achieved that on Better Call Saul. So
it reminds me sometimes of like what about Ernest? Like Ernest was known as this goofball, but he was very classically trained Shakespearean actor, and not a lot of people know him from that. And if you see him doing one of those roles, it almost has like an extra sort of
I just watched
ambiance to it.
He's got one. I just watched one of his earlier movies called Dr. Otto and the Gloom Beam, or something like that, and it was crazy. Like he was just doing all sorts of different kind of Peter Sellers style.
It started with commercials.
He's this
right?
evil villain. It's actually very politically like prescient to today. It's like the world is being taken over by basically a dark lord who's like destroying the value of the money, and it's 1985, but yeah,
looks
what's his real
amazing.
name? Jim Varney, yeah. Dr. Otto. What's the full title? Let's see here.
It's
Dr. Otto and the Riddle of the Gloom Beam.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's
Look,
it's a wild one. It's on Tubi.
I'm watching that tonight.
It's
Did we ever see Vern, or was Vern just
No.
like less than a Wilson?
I don't think you ever saw Vern. And it's, I mean, that the whole thing started out with commercials, right? And then he had that show. He had like little clips that were put together, and it was usually from the perspective of Vern, if not always, right? Like it's like he's talking to Vern. It's all first person perspective, right? Him interacting with Vern. But Vern was always like really stalker like, so he's just like following Vern around and making him really uncomfortable. That was like his main gig. But yeah, I like the importance of being earnest, which was, I don't, it's a very arrogant title, but no, that's a Zach Galifianakis bit. Sorry, stealing it.
ZG.
I pulled up, put screen share on for a second, I guess. Here's the Dr. Otto and the Riddle of the Gloom Beam.
Yes, and Ernest like appears at the very end. It's almost like the end of the movie is like a teaser for Ernest. It's weird.
But he plays a bunch of other characters, right?
Yeah. Marty was like a
bunch of other
Shakespearean actor, so he was really good at everything. But then, like, he got famous for doing like commercials or something where he played a silly character. He created this kind of earnest character for some commercials, and then, he died of like some horrible cancer, and everyone was sad.
You see the Sampaku eyes he got in that image, where his eyes look crazy. So, like, Sampaku is a Japanese term for the three whites. So, when there's three whites at the top, it means like more crazy, like AOC vibes. She has those crazy eyes.
You would get a good AI art of AOC recently, and it never occurred to me that AOC, ACO, so a Clockwork Orange, AOC. There's a
Oh wow, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because he
with
has
the lid locks. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, so, like that seems to be like the obvious image is her with lid locks. Have you done that, Thomas?
Put lip gloss in my eyes? Not yet.
No, lid locks. The lid locks.
Clockwork
Orange. You mean like Clockwork Orange style?
That's what I'm saying. AOC, ACO.
That makes sense.
Is that what it's actually called?
Lid locks. Yeah. I think that's in the book. I'd have to look again, but yeah.
But I got this theory that they're using the symbolism of a Sampaku eye to charge something, because we're looking at these different hosts of the most mainstream podcasts in the world, for example, the most watched, most funded, the most mainstream thing you could watch is a podcast called Joe Rogan. And if you look at his symbol, his third eye has the Sampaku. His eyes have the Sampaku as well. And you just watch all the movies and music videos in the 90s, especially just watching Beavis and Butthead and watching all the music videos that they go to, like Black Hole Sun. Everyone's got those eyes, and they like really show it a lot. And I think it's because it's some sort of psychological trick being played.
Well, isn't that what happens to you when you get woke? Is your eyes get wide? I mean, I got some wide eyes, so I'm not one to, I live in a glass house as far as that goes. But yeah, I mean,
yeah, no, it's totally normal to like all that. I'm just saying, symbolically on the world stage, they showcase the symbol of the Sampaku eye, and if it's underneath and it's the three whites at the bottom, it just means distress. Like if I'm stressed out, I'll have the three underneath. If I'm crazy and pissed off, I'll have it at the top. Okay. But they've shown people like Prince, JFK, having the Sampaku eye, and there's always like a tragic story in their life with it. I think Princess Diana as well. Tupac.
I would think of it as like a kind of a Satori thing. At least for Joe Rogan, that's kind of the implication, right? Like a swift spiritual kick to the eye, you know? Like
Yeah,
knocking it away.
it's weird.
It's weird. It's a little weird.
But I'm obsessed with it. So every time I see that, I talk about if it's dolphins or eyeballs. Like, see, this AI has got the Sampaku in the background underneath that image.
So are we going to get the JFK files tomorrow or the next day? It seems like they've gone dark. Is that the deal? Like,
I heard I thought the FBI was deleting the files left and right.
that's the rumor right now, is that they're just like, I thought they would have had the shredder since November 5th, but like it just seems like I don't know. But the one lady, what is her name? Bondi? Excuse me. Some of these people are new.
Bondi, yeah.
Yeah. So she's saying, she went on Fox and said they're on her desk. And then she like had a tweet about it, and then she deleted the tweet, or the tweet got deleted. Has anybody seen her? Like, is she alive right now? Like, I don't even know what the hell is happening right now. I'm so on the edge of my seat. I'm maybe paying too much attention to something that's just in.
Well, is Pam Bondi? Because Pam Bondi tweeted that she had the Epstein list on her desk.
She had all of them. She's like, I got all.
And JFK, one person in charge. Do you think RFK is like checking in with her every hour? Like, so those files about my uncle.
Yeah. So, and then there's the Luna lady, and I got confused because I was like, wait, now she had all these people saying, just release the files, just release the files. Like, if you look at her Twitter, it's like miles and miles of people being, just release the files already. And so eventually she comes out and it's like, hey, Bondi's gone dark. I'm trying to reach her. So now I'm going to X to be like, hey, can anybody reach her? Like, it's like, so she doesn't want to take the responsibility, obviously, but I'm looking at it, I'm like, so wait a minute, you kind of advertise yourself. We watched her on SyncTank, right? Watched that little speech from Luna, whatever her name is, and she's like, I'm like, are you just a PR lady? Like, who's trying to just projecting you're more than you are? And right now, there's the whole thing with the press secretary where she kind of like dodged a question, apparently. Like, I need to check this out because it was just moments ago, but relating to what is Elon Musk's role in Dodge. So, like, Ian Crossland, he had a great tweet. I think we looked at it at one point where he does a steel man for like, is this legal what Dodge is doing? He's like, yeah, this is legal. This is why it's legal. He goes through the whole thing. I mean, he's not the only person to do that, but it kind of ends with like this question of like, is he an administrator? What is his role exactly? Because if you look at the Secretary of the Treasury, he did a little talk explaining what Doge is doing. And he was just like, this is eyes only. Like, they can make suggestions, but they're really limited. And then Elon isn't saying that, like, which would make sense because maybe that's, not what he wants to project. But at the same time, the question becomes, who is the administrator of Doge? Like, who is that? And so she's not answering it. I'm curious.
It's Grok.
Is Grok is in charge? Is that it? Is that the administrator's AI? Is that where we're at?
There's a name I heard in that article Snore posted, or the podcast Snore posted earlier, of who's running Doge, and I can't remember her name now, but
probably Peter.
Let's see here. Trump.
Right.
So that whole thing is, like I said, it's like Ian Crossland did a really good job of explaining all of that, like how Doge came into being. But the question of the administrator, I watched that podcast. I didn't catch them say technically who the administrator is. And most of what they were working off of was like a Guardian article and like some other, I don't know. There's nothing new that I'd heard in that. It was interesting, but
I mean, Kissinger's not from the U.S., and I think he was an advisor for a long time even before being a full citizen. He was made a citizen in World War II, right? And so I think having a presidential advisor, the president can have anyone they want as an advisor, and he reestablished the USDF, United States Digital, or USDS, United States Digital Services, USDS. Sorry. Yeah, into Doge. And so he said he put a man in charge named Elon Musk. I remember his quote when he said that. I put a man named Elon Musk in charge. So, I mean...
Susie Wiles is who they were saying. She's the chief of staff. Trump's chief of staff.
Right. But they're not. This was. I'm just saying, like, when this was addressed, like, who is the technical administrator? Because there's a lot of people working it. So that's a position. Elon Musk can only do it for 120 something days out of the year legally. to be involved with that as from the private sector to work over in a government position like that?
You know, can he just take one day off and then start another 120 days?
Yeah, he just takes ketamine every day.
That's a good question. That's a really good question for real, because like he could break that up. I mean, I don't know if he
Need
can.
a lot of ketamine.
I'm curious to know. Yeah, because that didn't even occur to me. I was just like, oh well, I guess he's got this amount of days to be in this position. Not like, oh, can he be like, well, actually, just once a week?
Our government wouldn't have weird workarounds like that, though. There's no way.
No way.
And since he's in charge of eliminating weird redundancies and workarounds, I'm sure he wouldn't like use one to his own advantage while pursuing other ones that aren't advantageous to him.
Right. So that's that whole Dave Chappelle argument about Trump in the first place, where the guy, as an allegory, he walks out of the big fancy house and all the townsfolk around are like, what's going on in there? And he's like, oh, some messed up stuff. And they're like, my God, how do you know? Well, I just walked out of there. It's like same kind of deal. It's like Musk and Trump, these people know these games. So they're actually like, you know, they're people that you can kind of at least trust that they know how these things work, you know?
Yeah. Well, also that picture you showed with Elon, the wider version was him with Thiel, and Thiel is way sophisticated. So you're asking who's in
That's a nice
charge.
way to say gay.
That is, yeah. Why is he always sweating like that? Like, why is he always like red and sweaty? Like he's like, he looks like he's under the hot lamp, like being questioned by the FBI. Like when it's just a simple question or anything.
I wish, like in school, if they wanted to beat you up, they would like jocks would just call you sophisticated. That would be like the.
Well, all top level people are very sophisticated. Like,
unfortunately, saying sophisticated makes you sound sophisticated.
It makes sense though, because like you don't get half your assets taken in like divorce. You're not like worrying like all that, you know, because they're very sophisticated.
Super.
Peter Thiel is a anagram for the reptile. So
really?
Thank you,
the
Alex.
reptile.
The reptile.
That's wild.
I guess that explains why he likes to sit on hot rocks.
I mean, he did a lot of good. What was that thing called? Thunder, Hulk Hogan. I just watched that movie with Hulk Hogan recently, Thunder in Paradise.
Oh, he did that movie? What?
What do you mean he did it? He produced
it? No, so like just the friendship between Thiel and Hulk Hogan, because Thiel was outed because of Gawker, and then he decided, like, of all people he needed to like protect out there, it was Hulk Hogan. It was like I mean, I know they destroyed my reputation, and it's not about me. I just want to help the little guy. You know what I mean? And he decided to help Hulk Hogan, who had his career ruined by saying he didn't want to see his daughter cuckold. He didn't want to get cuckolded by his daughter, basically.
Well, dude, I didn't know until like relatively recently. Like Hulk Hogan was like with the whole thing with Gawker, where it's like that was the dirtbag left thing, like the Russell Brand. Like just total sensationalism from the left. It was Fox News for the left, and then Hulk Hogan, like a video came out of him having a sex and with like an affair with this woman, and then they almost like felt bad for him because you're like, oh shit, that was wrong for them to just take that video. Dude. And then some other stuff came out where it's just like him having like a racist tirade that was like
it was kind of racist to say what he said. Don't get me wrong, it was racist, but he was like sick of his daughter dating black guys, and that was the racist tirade. So it's like, it's kind of bad, but it's not like nearly as bad as they presented it. They made it sound like this guy who had been a wrestler with tons of black wrestlers and, you know, worked out. He had plenty of black friends. It's not accurate to say he's like some weird anti-black white supremacist, which is why they were able to win the case.
No, what it is,
candid recording of him saying,
you just look at the recording, if you look at those words, it's not a good look. It's just like,
you
can't, you couldn't dig him out of that one.
It was pretty bad, but it's like, again, it's not a good look because they made it sound like he was this like super white supremacist racist, which is not accurate to what was saying. He just really wanted his daughter to date within his race, which is still, I guess, not socially acceptable. So they used that as an in to attack him, but they made it sound like he was just super anti-black, which he's not on any level, right? Like he had no problem before this with his daughter dating blacks to begin with. I mean, he just
you have and it gets recorded, and then it's just like, it becomes representative of like who you are, like out of frustration. So I mean,
the rest of the time they're like, okay, Hulk Hogan's this terrible guy.
I mean, there was a hard R in that. You know what I mean? Like that, he was mad.
He's I don't know if you guys follow wrestling at all. I do. He's pretty much persona non grata with the fans. He came out. They brought him out on the Raw a few months ago, and the fans just booed the shit out of him. It was very embarrassing for everyone.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's very much like he's kind of I don't know. He's a consummate.
And those boos weren't just in the back. Those
liar.
weren't just for the people who couldn't afford the good seats. Like those boos came all the way through the whole arena.
Yeah. And the
I
pro
just wanted to
wrestling
spill any rumors here.
hold on a second. Even in the world of pro wrestling, which is known for like total carny, like just total bullshit, he is like top of the heap for carny bullshit. So that's Hulk Hogan. But it is weird that he found himself in the middle of this Gawker scandal.
I think his movies are underrated.
And here he is
What is it,
hugging a
Commando?
black guy, and the black guy's smiling. So I think this disproves any claims of racism.
Exactly.
Something Commando. What was it? The kids movie.
Suburban Commando with
Thank
Rick
you.
Moranis in that.
With Shelley Duvall and Christopher Lloyd. Shelley Duvall and
Christopher Lloyd. That's right.
Of course, I needed that Shining Back to the Future mashup.
There was also Santa with muscles. That was that's a hilarious one, actually. Great.
Thunder in Paradise is underrated. He's got like this coked out Navy SEAL friend, and they're making like a boat, and then the military steals their designs. And there's this like whole under part of the boat that's way too big. It's like a movie set where like, you just go down to the boat, and then you're in this giant magic realm, basically. And he shoots off of a jet ski through like the torpedo cannon. It was great. It's great.
Can we just point out that somebody in the comments says Doc, which is just so good. Because look at that. You got like, I don't know, there's something to that with Shelley Duvall and Doc Brown, and you know, they call Danny Doc in The Shining. Doc is Hebrew, by the way, for to be extinguished, to extinguish something. Yeah.
And that's my Cherie, by the way, coming in clutch. She's always dropping the best comments ever.
Nice.
I think she's talking about somebody in the chat, actually, Doc Fortune.
It's a synchronicity. That's what we're here for. SyncTank.
Oh, nice. Well, it's like a multi-layered. Like...
Christopher Lloyd.
I'm letting Thomas run this one. I only have a few like random thoughts. Like I wanted to ask what you thought about the taking over of the White House press circle. Like the White House will be in charge of who's doing the press from now on. So it'll be like Starship Troopers. Would you like to know more? Which is funny because we got here from trying to get rid of, pharmaceutical controlled press. Basically, that was kind of, we had press that we didn't like, and now we have more. We wanted not to have controlled press. We have more controlled press than ever.
Do you remember Rush Limbaugh used to have a segment called "Meet the Depressed"? Instead of Meet the Press. That was his sense of humor. But she said it right away. Like I think the first time that she did a briefing, this woman, what's her name? The new press secretary. Excuse me.
Caroline something. Leave it. There you go.
Okay, leave it. Yeah. So
leave
yeah.
it.
So
if you don't love this country, you can leave it.
She
Okay,
said that people from independent media, and I think she even specifically said podcasts and blogs will actually get a front position for the press at those briefings. I remember hearing that.
It's being in like the alternative like media space for decades and whatnot. What's going on? It's all a brainwash because you got that Civil War movie, which was all about you are the media, and they're wearing the UN helmets. And now there's a lot of viral people that Elon interacts with that look just like the archetype of that movie.
Yelp reviewers turned into independent journalists.
And all the independent journalists today, what I think I posted, I think it makes a lot of sense, is that we're not the media, which is a region. It's not like, so it goes back even further, but we're not in the conversation. So we can make videos and talk or whatever, but we're not in the conversation. I'm not being retweeted, or most people are not being retweeted. It's a select few of people who say that they're the media that are independent, but then it turns out there's a Fox News connection to pretty much all of them. For example, Tucker Carlson, he was on Fox, right? He left Fox. He became the alt media, having Alex and Tucker on like his profile picture, and but Fox just purchased his company recently. So even though he's still so there's this Fox connection.
So that's just a rotating door, is it not? I mean, how different is that from a regulatory agency and CEOs of a corporation, which just happened, by the way, with Pfizer? I don't know if you saw that. Like, it was like yesterday. We're just like, oh yeah, well, we're still keeping that rotating door going. It's like, at which point it's so transparent they don't care even, I guess. People still justify it somehow. Like, it's like, these things that you're like, well, it's legal. And you're like, well, it shouldn't be. There ought to be a law. It's like, well, sorry. I don't know.
I feel like if they're going to try to redeem McDonald's with RFK, they're going to try to redeem Pfizer. It's just, to them, it's just a company. And so you just put a new CEO in charge and you clean up the mess. You like change the ingredients or,
change the symbol maybe.
Yeah, change the corporate culture a little bit is all. Like,
look, I mean, one of the key things that he needs to do is repeal the Act of '86, the vaccine, the liability thing, so to have vaccine manufacturers be liable for.
Right, that's for vaccines that are on the child schedule. If it's not on the child schedule, then it doesn't apply. But that's a lot of vaccines. So yeah,
I mean,
all the biggies.
So, I mean,
about the press pool thing, whenever the media and like criticism of like, oh, we can't just let it go to all these amateurs, I just like to remind myself at least about the concept of yellow journalism, that it's been around since the 1890s at least. I mean, it goes back with the phrase, but even yellow journalism was named after something that Joseph Pulitzer was doing, member of Jekyll Island Hunt Club, by the way, Federal Reserve, but also the Pulitzer Prize. It's named after the same guy that brought us yellow journalism. So I wonder, how bad could it be? We've had basically the absolute worst version, I think, of like mainstream news for over a century now. So let the CNN U Report bloggers come out and have a shot at it. The worst that can happen is it's not as good as the garbage that we've got already.
Right. I think a lot of things apply like that. You're like, it's so bad, and you're like, oh, but if we do that, then it's like, I don't know. It's because it's a weird question. It's like, how much worse could it get?
Like just getting rid of the Department of Education, which is one of the other things that seems like it's on the chopping block. I don't know what's real anymore. I don't know what they're dangling in front of us just to get a reaction. Because some of the things that come out, it's almost like when Trump was first campaigning, and he would literally go out in front of a live crowd and he would just beta test catchphrases, and he would see what people responded to, and then he would adopt that thing as he went forward. And he kind of was like workshopping stuff real time. And I just wonder how much of the things that get said, hey, maybe we'll send out stimulus checks, maybe we'll get rid of the Department of Education, maybe who knows what we'll do. But I don't know if any of these things are real until you just read a headline and it's like, Trump just made it illegal to be gay. It just happened just now, like 5 minutes ago.
Well, we have like 300 some odd departments and agencies and everything, organizations, all coalitions, commissions, etc. all together. It's like 300 to 500 random things. And you could probably do with less, I think. So the idea at least is to put as many important functions in one department as possible. So maybe just consolidating, maybe there's like 30 or 40 departments that all have one or two things that they're doing that's valuable, that all could be considered one department. I mean, like the DMV versus, everything else. Like, do all motor vehicles need to be in a different department than drones and aviation? Right now, drones are involved with aviation, but maybe we could have just a singular space or something like that. Like also education versus public libraries. Do we need a department of education? Can we just work with what we've had for because there wasn't a Department of Education until the 70s, right, with Carter. So we could probably continue with what we had before. And then can you get things that did have a value and put them somewhere that protects them, like state parks, right? Could state parks be part of the Defense Department? Because you need to defend your land. You have to have mycelium for the mushrooms that can fight against bioterrorism. You have to have all of your nature.
Parents up in crazy debt because of the Department of Education. Like it's a real freaking problem because people are having to sue them all the time. So like if you put your kid into a private school and you think is this going to work because the Department of Education is going to help me out with all of this, and suppose they go a year and then they're not helping you, you can end up owing like money that you never thought you'd actually have to pay. So like it traps people sometimes. It can just ruin them. So yeah, it's that's one issue. It's got plenty of issues. I mean, there's also just like looking at where we were on the global stage in terms of education. Introduced the Department of Education. I know correlation doesn't equal causation, but at the same time, it's like, oof, yeah, look at what followed. It's just like this long degradation. Like I don't even know. So you can't say that it's helped because well, it would have been so much worse. It's like the vaccine. It would have been much worse. Say the line. I don't know.
The Department of Education, the symbolism of it, Jordan Maxwell was tying it to a National Socialist image of the oak tree.
Mm. Go on.
Well, it's just interesting. Like Adolf he's known to hand out oaks and trees at the Olympics and whatnot, and the symbol he was connecting it to it. And I was reading that, and then this was all in the news. Like you probably noticed that whenever you start researching something, then it starts popping up in the news. It's like weird.
Total fake.
The oak tree goes way back to the
present this time.
Well, Thomas, what is the golden bough? What kind of tree is that again that they pull from the sacred grove? What is that?
I mean the Oakland, right? And one of the things about the oak tree too is the root system and how far it spreads, and it covers like an enormous amount of land relative because it grows out in all directions, but mostly you can see it growing kind of parallel to the ground here instead of sprawling out downwards in all directions.
Do you think that was a big part of why it was so important?
I'm leaving that part unsaid, so it seems like I do know, and I'm letting everyone else figure it out.
The oak is an anagram for AOK, and the AOK symbol is like the known like Illuminati symbol.
Don't you dare! We won't have any of that hate speech on this platform, sir.
It's because it's 666, obviously. Just like LOL is Lucifer our Lord. Look it up. So, the Satanic Church, they've been saying it since the 70s. Lucifer our Lord. It's everywhere.
The AOK symbol, I believe, is connected to the oak tree. It's an anagram for oak. And if you look at the Yule log, which is made out of an oak tree as well, you usually put 3 candles on it, which is like the oak would be the 0 and the 3 would be the candles. Or that's just total schizophrenia on my part.
Sir.
Well, this is actually something AI just taught me, and it looks like it's true that AOK was popularized by the NASA because it meant all systems okay. So we wouldn't even have this popular phrase if it weren't for NASA.
AOK, never a straight answer to deceive. Seriously? Oh boy, interesting.
AOC.
On an internet, on an internet forum I posted on my handle was Agent Orange Cooper, and I went with AOC for short. People would call me, and that was before Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, so she kind of appropriated that for me as far as.
I thought you were going to say before Twin Peaks came out. I was saying this. I was a kid. I don't know. No.
You were saying Agent Orange Cooper? Oh no.
That's pretty good though.
Are we worried about a meteor? Is there a meteor coming towards us right now?
Have you not heard that story yet? Do you not know about that? What?
I don't pay attention to anything.
This is an interesting psyop as well. So this idea that in 2032 a meteor's got like a 10% chance, or it was like 2, and then it's increasing percent chance of hitting the Earth, and this meteor is supposedly 200 or 300 meters in size. Yeah, there you go. Oh, but now it's fallen again? Okay.
It's fallen to less than 0.001%.
Darn it. See, because I was hoping
as long as you pay your carbon taxes.
Wait. But 17 is Q, and I'm just kidding. But I also I do feel like the idea of a meteor is like pretty good. Hey, which town can we?
It's also 322.
Well, here's the twist, though. The meteor is going to hit us, but inside the meteor is JFK Jr., and then he's gonna reclaim his rightful throne on the right side. Of the
every good soap opera, every time somebody shows up you thought was dead, who's it going to be then?
I feel like if anybody gets hit like a earthquake, it's just Jack Andrews says, "I watch Deep Impact every day." Calm down. Holy crap!
At least watch Armageddon or
I've
It
done
was the
some
better
crazy-
of the two.
Meteor with Sean Connery.
Wasn't
I've
it better
done-
than Armageddon? Really? I mean, come on. I
It
mean,
is. It's much
that
better.
was my
Nothing
experience.
excites me more than a Doomsday movie.
Deep Impact. Also, that somehow the Morgan Freeman Deep Impact, it just hits hard, right? This feels
Just God.
I always
God.
watched this movie thinking it was a sequel to North too, which makes it a little bit more fun to watch.
that makes sense.
Deep Impact was the sequel to North.
I think so. Yeah, this is Elijah Wood growing up after he gets adopted. This immediately happens afterwards.
I think of it as sort of like an unfinished reboot of Doctor Strangelove, because you can totally tell there's a bunch of stuff going on they're not talking about in that movie because everything goes wrong. So like, why did everything go wrong? Well, because of average human error, which would have been the drama of the show that they missed, right?
Dude,
That's the
I have a major complaint about Hollywood with that. Like, how many missed opportunities when they could just have, you know what I mean? Like, where you have the actor just calling the same name. Like Reese Witherspoon's character in Election, that should have been the same name as in Legally Blonde. You don't even have to make anything else out of it. It could be the same movie. It's just give her the same name. And then we're just like, oh, you know, I don't know. I'm just saying there's a lot of examples of that.
I specifically don't do that so that they have no licensing MC universe kind of issues. That's the reason, I think.
Did you see the new Netflix show, 0 Day?
Mm-mm.
No.
Oh, that's
You're like the third person that's mentioned that today to me. Is it that good?
No, it's not. It's not that great. No, but it goes into the same sort of
yeah.
with. Yeah, it's like Leave the World Behind.
Robert De Niro. It must be like some pretty deep CIA financed USA. This must be one of the last USA produced shows. We should definitely.
Well, I'll ruin it for everyone. It turns out during the show that who you could trust is the CIA. They're the good guys.
Surprise.
The men in black were the good guys. Like that's the whole movie, pretty much.
I don't trust anything from this guy right now. I think he's a real life mobster, man. I think he's like working for the mob. I'm sorry. Like Robert De Niro, I trust him about as far as I can throw him, which, you know,
I have no problem with people that work with the mob either. That's the thing. It's like, it's kind of like saying he's a whore, and you're like, I don't mean any disrespect to actual prostitutes.
Right, because it's an arm of the Catholic Church. And if you have a problem with the mob, you got a problem with the church, you know, are you going to do that?
There's some, I don't even, is that all? I really feel like Robert De Niro is just like a terrible person. Like he's
I don't have to use any extra.
Yeah, he's just like he's got a height issue. He has to wear these giant 6-inch stilettos that make him sad. You know, he's like a sexual predator allegedly. You know, all sorts of bad relationships.
Allegedly,
who's worse?
I don't want to get you guys in trouble.
Who's worse, De Niro or Tom Hanks?
De Niro. Even Tom Hanks might be like a keystone to some weird human trafficking stuff. I think, like, I wouldn't want to be alone with.
You know what? We're at the precipice right now. We don't have to it could be everything we've been saying for years. It could turn out we didn't know what the hell we were talking about, and all the people that we knew and loved turned out that they were.
Thomas got me thinking one day. He's like, "Yeah, but what if Tom Hanks isn't evil?" And it really, I mean,
it's possible. It's certainly possible. Have you seen The Man with One Red Shoe though?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but could have been something like insane, dude. It could have been like he had a gun to his head. They made him do some terrible things. He's had it over his head for the rest of his life. They put drugs in his drink. Like he's just a total victim, and we're all just like Satanist, da da da. And he's just like, oh please, when you drugged me and made me do that terrible thing with the pig that I'll always regret. I don't even remember, but you showed me the video, and it just hangs over his head. Like we have no idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's not enough to because he went to the coronation of Biden, the inauguration of Biden was saying
he doesn't want that pig.
He's the only. He's like I think the only actor to speak to the number 237 in like multiple roles across multiple films.
Has anybody ever connected? What's the guy's name? Geppetto or something like that?
Yeah.
It's
That's right.
Geppetto.
It's not subtle.
I just got it. Yeah.
You telling me your whole life?
I've never. No, that's the first time I actually put that together.
Dude.
Really? And the boy's made out of a bundle of sticks. Wait, open up my screen. I wanted to show.
He's made out of a bundle of sticks.
He is made out of a bundle of sticks.
We used to play Tom Hanks Pro Skater as kids.
Yeah.
It has the one
Great soundtrack.
Oh my god, yeah.
That soundtrack.
Huey Lewis in the News. It was really good. That was one of the better. Oh my god. No, apparently he's like a woman. So now I have to think because Thomas said maybe he's not evil. Like, well, what if he wasn't? What if it's actually all a ruse? But like, I don't know. That's hard to imagine.
I just
look at Michael Jackson, man. Look at how
I'm so glad you just brought up Michael Jackson. That's exactly what I think of too.
Dude, you don't know until
what about him?
It turns out he's like the biggest actual victim, not like playing victim, but actual victim of them all. And like all the kids, like Corey Feldman and freaking Home Alone kid. What's his name? I can't think right.
Macaulay Culkin.
Macaulay Culkin.
Culkin is just like they like looked at him. They're like getting molested by all these dudes, all these crazy Hollywood dudes, and they're like, Michael Jackson, he gets it. Like he's a safe haven. Like let me hang out with Michael Jackson. I'll feel safe from all these wacky people because he knows what it's like. It's just like complete reversal of what we all thought. What some people still think.
I mean, the Pinocchio thing, I think of Tim Allen because Tom Hanks, Tim Allen from the Home Improvement show. Jonathan Taylor Thomas did the Geppetto. No, he did the Pinocchio movie, right? And that was basically where he walked away. He's like, "That's it. All right, I'm done. I've seen too much. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm gonna just go live basically in hiding at a university and like fade away into reality." Right? I mean, he completely walked away from show business and being a child star after he did the Pinocchio movie. And that was a weird, remember that one with Jonathan Taylor Thomas? It was a weird artsy, it had that weird homoerotic artsy quality to it,
It's true. And so what was it so Guillermo del Toro spent years and years and years doing the most recent Pinocchio, which is amazing, and I recommend it to anybody. Like it's great
story about fascism.
The blue fairy in that is psychedelic as hell. She's like straight out of like biblically accurate angel, but like then you look at the one that Disney did with Tom Hanks, like, and it's just like, did they make this in like a weekend? Like by comparison, it was a total flop. It deserves to be, but it's like they did a live action Pinocchio that just absolutely sucks, that came out around the same time as the Pinocchio that Guillermo del Toro spent years putting together. And it's just like, dude, it's no comparison, I'm just saying. It's crazy.
Since Michael Jackson came up, I just do have to point out that he's the only person in history that I'm aware of that's got a video game about saving kids from traffickers. It's an entire video game that's specifically about this topic.
For Sega, I don't know how many consoles it was on, but I played it for Sega a ton when I was a kid.
Well, yeah, Sega's the one to play it on for this particular, because the arcade one was more of like a three-dimensional isometric sort of view. It didn't have the same gameplay as the Sega Genesis one.
The Michael Jackson did the soundtrack for Sonic the Hedgehog 3, but then he was pulled out of the production during the scandal, and so they had to scrub his existence from it. But they recently found, even in the audio ROM.
The video game Sonic the Hedgehog 3.
Yeah, he did the music for it.
Just came out with the movie Sonic the Hedgehog 3, so you just totally threw me for a loop. I was like, wait, what's the new scandal with Michael Jackson just came out?
But you can actually hear him in some of the audio effects.
Really? People going like,
yeah, and they just didn't want anyone to know. Yeah, you can totally look it up. It's all true. It's crazy.
Huh.
I don't remember I didn't really watch the Tom Hanks Pinocchio movie, but I imagine that maybe there's something to it. Like, I want to believe that they're doing some failures on purpose. Like, so the Snow White movie, I think they want to be a failure so they can point at it and say, look, we are not doing this anymore. That's going to be their DEI out. Is Snow White
down today? Is that right?
I think it's probably around now. I don't know. Yeah, it's like out.
I think she stepped down today. I thought it was today, or if it was not yesterday.
But who did? What?
Kathleen Kennedy from.
Oh, really?
Lucas.
Out.
Yeah, like I think you might want to.
Which is dead. Which is dead.
It was like minutes before the show started. I saw that some blurb that she was out. I'm like, oh, so yeah.
What? That's crazy. Kathleen Haney expected to retire this year, but this is the
that's all it is. Okay.
Yeah, but this is the fifth. This is the fifth year in a row that they've been expecting that. So I don't know.
Oh, really? She just perpetually. There's probably some other reason for her projecting that. It's probably.
I mean, the more that Disney fails, like kind of like Tesla right now, right? The more Disney fails, the cheaper the stock is for BlackRock or Disney to buy again. The more Tesla fails, the cheaper the stock is for Elon Musk to buy it back again.
Oh,
so
wow. It's interesting.
Yeah. You know what I mean? I feel like it's like,
why not like let it get Warren Buffett out of the stock, let it crash, herbal films, then buy it up, but don't let it go down too far.
Let it go down so bad that all you have is the legacy of the past. And you're like, look, we are never going to do woke again. And obviously, because what's the market? The market's it's family. Family's trad. So you have to, you can try to reinvent family, but realistically, family's trad. It's broken. You usually sell the biggest demographic is broken family, right? That's what every story was about originally. But like it's trad. So they're going to have to eventually revert back to what their market demands of them. And when they do, they're going to say, look, this is why we tried this. We really did give our best to the woke thing. But we're a business. We're a business and we have to do what, this is what people want to buy from us, right? Like this is the product they want to buy from us. We have to make, thank God they don't want us to make tranny porn. They just want us to make these like kids cartoons. That's what they're going to say.
Well, what I'm wondering is like if there's, because the way things are set up with ESG scores and like people trying to ensure that they'll be bailed out by a show of complicity or a show of compliance. I mean to say, like in the future that like they comply to all this stuff, and so they're just like in alignment. Like, will you do what you're told? Is kind of like what it feels like to me. Like it's not really about these policies, like that they're the final end of it. It feels very strategic. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit. I don't know. But like, I wonder if there's like in the long run, if like the way that that's all been set up, if that subject, like how vulnerable is that?
Well, yeah. Like, doesn't it seem like a reasonable thing that if you were trying to create an alt-right Christian fascist police state, that you would create something like Sweet Baby to psychologically operate in order to create a reaction so that reverse psychology would force people to demand the alternative to the Sweet Baby? It's basically like stick and carrot,
Also, weird name, and the logo for this company. I don't like to look for weird problems where they don't exist, but we're seeing the spiral, right? But the logo is literally a baby that only shows the bottom passage into it, and inside of the baby's stomach is this big spiral symbol. Not a good look, Sweet Baby Inc.
That's weird. You're right. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there, but I was just gonna say like Meow Meow Beans from I don't know if you guys are like hip to what's it, Community, but like there's like the Logan's Run episode, which is like all about the social credit score points or whatever. It seems like there's like they've set it up so that these corporations have to go along with these corporate like these credit scores in a different realm, right? I don't know if you're hip. This is great. This has got Tim Heidecker in it. This episode is pretty funny.
This sounds like a particular kind of research chemical. Am I wrong? Yeah.
Yeah, but my point is that it's like this thing that everybody just goes all fanatical about, and then it's like at the end, it's just like, wait, what did we just like? They wake up from it. We did this with COVID, where it's just like there's just this mass hysteria, and then it just like ends with like, whoa, I guess we got a little carried away there. Like look at what's happening to Germany right now. Like World War II happened in large part because of the humiliation of World War I. And then if that was the basis for World War II, man, they really got humiliated with World War II on a whole other level. Like, whoa, where do you guys? You'd love to just be able to be like, yeah, never mind, that didn't happen.
I'm about to give the cat the bong rip.
Oh, all right, let's do this.
Is that legal? I mean, I know it's legal for humans now, whatever state you're in, but is that...
Maybe you want to make a full screen.
Is that...
No, he's got asthma. So
he's got asthma that's prescribed? Okay, you go ahead.
It's a bong.
It's prescription, David. Don't narc us out.
Okay, hey, I'm okay. Yeah.
You put the asthma into the chamber. It's a bong. Like literally.
That cat's on steroids.
Okay. It takes him a couple of times.
Oh.
Well, he's probably a bit self-conscious in front of all these people. He's like in front of how many? Like what are we at? Like 600,000 people? What does that mean?
He's a camera. He loves So he's hitting right now.
4.85 million.
Now he's
That's
good.
20 people right now.
6 million people are watching the stream simultaneously.
Oh, right.
Give or
So
take.
if your
It's a
cat
touchy
gets
number.
asthma, I will teach you how to give the cat the asthma.
Okay, the inhaler. Yeah, you didn't actually give the cat asthma just now. You gave him an inhaler for it.
So he's going to teach you how to give your cat asthma, though. That's the course.
No, he doesn't have asthma. I'm trying to give it to him.
Oh, somebody brought up Pokemon. It's coming back. So I busted out them Pokemon cards if you're interested in seeing my collection.
You can bust out some Pokemon cards. I was just seeing all those kids beating each other up over Pokemon cards in the mornings at Costco to get like the new racks of cards. People are dying in the streets for Pokemon.
Yeah.
I like those days when people were running around playing, catching them. You know, catch them all like in the streets. Like that was something else. Pokemon Go.
You know about the CIA and all that, right? Though.
No, tell me, what was the real story behind Pokemon Go? That had to be a special op, right? I mean, that was
Incutel, right?
Yeah, Incutel, and I'm trying to remember the name of it. It was like something started with an N, like Netscape or something like Navigator or something like that.
What was the point of that? Just
it was triangulation and getting all of this cross variable triangulation and getting to see like how all kinds of data. They were trying to figure out swarming of data.
It's called Niantic Labs, and now their website says building a large geospatial model to achieve spatial intelligence. So what they did is they had a game that was like the Niantic Labs game, and they adopted it, and then that turned into the Pokemon video game. But they were using all of that for people to map in 3D space, you know, the world essentially. They kind of outsourced it to everyone, and they did it for free.
And it records your sound and accelerometer and everything moving around. Look at all these. I have some Japanese cards too. All
The Japanese cards are the best for sure. That one's cool.
And yet everybody has this fond memory of, remember that time when we all went outside of our houses? And it's kind of the opposite of COVID, really. It was like, get out of your houses, go and
I got really
like part of the same like event 201 like a preparation. They're like, well, we'll see if we can do it in this direction, and then we'll flip it on them.
Yeah.
You know, it was weird too going through this because I remember growing up, the whole trend was like Jimmy down the street is deathly ill with something. So we've gotten all the kids in the neighborhood together and they're going to spend the night with Jimmy just so that they would get whatever he had. It was the exact opposite.
Yeah. They did that with the measles, right? That was like how you dealt with the measles. It's like, well, they're going to get it eventually, so you might as well just get out, you know. And what that had to do with like the immunity, right? That they were like, well, they'll be immune to it afterwards. That was the whole idea.
And you know what? That
this is how lame I am. This is like when I was a kid. I wrote Limp Bizkit and Anarchy Sign. Look how lame I was.
Nice.
A little corny, but you know, whatever.
So
I probably had the same thing with Magic the Gathering cards.
I got them too. They're in the other folder.
But I had some dual lands, but I traded them all for a BMX bike.
What you know about that, son?
It's a good trade.
It was at the time it was a good trade, but now if I would have held on to them, I could have got like a car for it.
Yeah, see, but you have to get it in the window, right? Like it's not like, I mean, I think those Desert Storm cards were actually worth something for like a minute, and they weren't worth anything anymore. And you thought
dude, I was just it's so crazy you brought that up, SyncTank. But I was just looking at the absolute cheapest American-based trading cards I could just like give away in orders. And those damn Desert Storm cards are like the absolute, it's like $9 for a whole pack of 36. But then on the picture on eBay, it had $1. It was marked down to $1 for the whole entire shrink wrap pack of like 36 of them was $1. Someone got it.
I have the whole set. It's not worth much.
No, it's not.
It's not.
It'll be worth
the time when it was. It's like stock. You got to know when to hold them and when to fold them. You got to know when to let it go. And I didn't know that. I was just like, oh, this is just going to be worth more indefinitely into the future. Psh, it's freaking paperboard. Good luck.
Also, I was going to ask. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
No good.
Oh no, did you see the little dipper in the one card had zoomed in?
Oh, riddle. Well, I was going to ask Alex because he does the cryptocubrology. If you wanted to share something that you've been doing on your page, some of your numbers.
Sure. I thought I could share. Just actually, if you go to my page, it's like the third one down.
Got it.
It's
So everyone go here too. It's cryptocubrology.com.
actually my X page on x.com/cryptocubrology.
I linked it in private chat also.
Okay, let's do that.
Substack there.
He's got a good Substack though. If you like stuff, he also has audio on there. You should listen to his newest episode.
Yeah, I've got 4 episodes up, and next one is scheduled up. We could do this one too. I mean, all the stuff.
Is this not the one you were talking about?
It's not quite. It's a good one too. I've just been sort of tracking these guys that Trump is appointing, and yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. This was just something I pulled out of my old notes about the first Trump inauguration. And so everybody knows Trump was 70 years, 7 months, 7 days old the day he was inaugurated president. Now, if you rewind from there 17,000 days, so you get your 17 which is Q. If you rewind 17,000 days from his inauguration, you get to July 7th, 1970, which is 7770. Which is the day Shelley Duvall turned 21, which is 7 + 7 + 7. And she married her husband, Bernard Sampson there. So I found that, and then I was like, well, what about do it with RFK when he turned the same age the day he joined up with Trump on stage, and 17,000 days from that, it was just interesting. It's the day this TV movie premiered, the Ruby and Oswald. And it's also the day after Ashton Kutcher was born, and we all know Ashton Kutcher is a, agent or whatever. And Ruby and Oswald. So just lots of stuff
to that. You got the butterfly effect, right? So it's like heavy, like, symbolism.
He looks like he's in despair right there.
Also, the punk thing, which is always like this is an ongoing joke, and you'll see it in different I don't know, silly like almost like romantic comedies. I've seen him use it multiple times where somebody's like, is Ashton Kutcher going to jump out and say we're being punked? And even I think Hot Tub Time Machine, they say it, but they don't call him Ashton Kutcher. They mispronounce it, but it's got some symbolic significance of whatever.
They mention him in that? That's
and
that's the other thing. If you go back to that tweet, one more under it.
Punks was the ultimate judgment. It was like Anubis. You actually felt like they sized you up for who you were. And I was thinking earlier about Chester Bennington because, Podesta, and also Bennington's son is trans now, right? His daughter, I guess, right? Just happened. And there's a new Linkin Park singer who's part of the Scientology church who is involved with the Danny Masterson alleged poisoning of the dog of the Mars Volta girl, right?
Oh.
But wait, why did we bring up...
You said Chester.
Yeah, but why was Chester Bennington in Linkin Park?
Ashton Kutcher.
Right, Ashton Kutcher, because Ashton Kutcher and Punks once put a fire hydrant in front of the guitarist from Linkin Park's car and made the guy say, oh, and he just starts lying to him. Instead of saying, I don't remember there being a fire hydrant there, he's like, got a cop there. He's like, oh, I didn't park my own car. I'm a rich guy. I have other people drive my car for me. Someone put my car here for me and wouldn't take responsibility for putting his car there, even though he didn't do anything wrong. Like, he's gaslighting the cop who's gaslighting him. So they're just gaslighting back and forth.
That's
and I always thought that was an interesting thing. It was like, it shows you so much about people.
Well, also that airplane that landed and then turned upside down, the guy that gets out of the plane is wearing a Scientology t-shirt to the stars.
Oh,
is he really?
That's it's not Scientology. It's the
it's definitely connected to
Tom DeLonge thing. Maybe
Tom DeLonge is like Elon. Like, he's just like a puppet to Thiel in a sense. That Tom DeLonge is a puppet to Harold Putoff, and Harold Putoff's top Scientologist who runs to the Stars Academy, who's like super connected to a lot of the MK Ultra type things that happened to the people that saw aliens in quotations.
Here's a 93 link for us.
And connecting it to the whole Trump team, Brad Garlinghouse, in my opinion, is trained for video from Ashton Kutcher. Like the reason why he's such a star and so wonderful on camera is because he was trained by Ashton Kutcher, who donated a bunch of Ripple or XRP to Ellen DeGeneres and whatnot.
Yeah, I remember reading, or I read about that, and that's an interesting thought. Because
wait, what is it?
Ripple was a CIA project as well.
What's the how's Ellen DeGeneres playing into that? I'm sorry, I missed it.
Because Ashton Kutcher donated a bunch of XRP, which is Brad Garlinghouse's company, he's the CEO of Ripple, to Ellen DeGeneres.
Okay. Yeah. Weird. I didn't know that.
Did you see Ellen DeGeneres' comeback special?
No, I did not. Did you?
Yeah, it was fabulous. Totally ridiculous. She's completely unapologetic. Not really, actually. It was kind of embarrassing to watch a little bit.
So she's still Ellen DeGeneres. She didn't surprise us all with something.
No, I mean, it was just like, she's just like, I'm a great person and everybody loves me and I'm a strong woman and I did nothing wrong and you guys are all idiots. And that's basically her.
Right. Well, it seems like online, it seems like from the conspiracy crowd, at least, it seems like her greatest crime was wearing a Basquiat sweater. Like, I'm not sure. Like, that's like the proof of everything. Look, it's
and having
it's the Wilson
on her backdrop for her.
Yeah, it's Wilson from Castaway,
playing ping
and
pong.
it's freaking Jay-Z and her, and they're both wearing the Basquiat sweater, which is clearly frizzle drap.
I mean, Anne Hesh and her had like a weird relationship for a long time. It was like kind of a
trample reap.
And
he died in a fire sacrifice of some kind.
I think the
237 blah 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 after the exorcism.
You know what? You know what's funny is the Taylor Swift. I'm just noticing this because Taylor Swift, like all the pictures of her, she has the microphone. Her butt.
What is it?
What?
Well, all the Taylor Swift pictures of her, the microphones, she puts it on her butt like she's farting into it.
I like dubstep a lot more than Taylor Swift. I feel like.
Have you heard? If you like dubstep, there's this chick that I like. I think her name's Raz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This looks like a dubstep album cover. This looks like something.
Do you like dubstep? Why do you like it?
I mean, I was just literally just making fun of Taylor Swift, but we used to listen to that in the Santa Cruz in the 2070s, right? 2007, 2006, 7, 8, 9.
Are you from the future?
That was what we used to see. It was a good time. David, I remember that's when I used to see David play like 2, 3, 4 heads above the rest, just standing there dancing.
I feel like
not when the dubstep is playing. I'm usually lower at that point. Like I get down, But like no, it's also like my favorite dubstep is actually like verges more on trance, where there's like so many beats between the beat that it's like got this other thing going that you're like, I don't even know at a certain point why they're even calling it dubstep because it's completely removed from that like Rasta vibe that you have with most dubstep. Like it's got this other thing going on. But yeah,
I feel like the dubstep is sort of like classical music in a sense of where there's no real talking and you can maybe think, unlike rap where it's just they're projecting all this different image archetype into my head 24/7, that there's not a lot of talking in dubstep like classical, but classical starts with a beginning, middle, end, and a total completion. I'm not sure about dubstep if it does the same thing.
Dubstep rhythm signature, like you can actually mix dubstep with hip hop. Because hip hop is 4/4, and you can adjust it to make it. You
can do anything with 2. A lot of things can be done with 2, right? So it's this lowest common denominator of beat, which is kind of related to your heart, and it's also binary. So you've just got this on, off, bouncing, and in between you can have polyrhythms. So you can have like straight 6, like a Namco game, or you can have 4/4 or whatever you want. So that's why I think dubstep was so universalizing, and also because it came out of first in the 70s and 80s in Britain, you had reggae, and so you had dub roots and these kind of
like
roots.
I'm always said dub in it.
Yeah, the dub journey kind of is this kind of like a religious thing that the Jamaican reggae Rastafarians are using electronic instruments to make feedback loops and all these sounds. And there's all this alleged lore about that Bayou blues and rock bounced on the shortwave radio across the bayou into the Caribbean, and so they were hearing the song bouncing, bunk, bunk, and that's where they got ska from originally. This is some of the alleged lore. But then in the 80s, because you had access to new technology and new like BBC equipment for recording, it became more of this sort of marriage between Rastafarianism and techno cyber paganism. And you hear that, I think, particularly in the early 2000s or like 2005, 10, you can hear kids making, out of the Grateful Dead sound machine, wall of sound, they're making sounds with sounds. And you also have endangered sounds, because we're growing up in a time where all of these machines that we used to listen to are like minorities that have been oppressed and put in camps. Like, when was the last time you saw a fax machine get to sing its song, But when you were a kid, that was a very common noise that you would hear. So these sounds, they kind of are saved somehow in that sort of ambient trance, like you said, dubstep that was at the time really cool, right? And not necessarily designed for human ears, but maybe like it impacts the body in the same way, because these are also huge speakers in tribal settings. Most of the time we're listening to this stuff in these big, like the Paul Sweethouse with these big speakers. So it hits you like a drum, like a Native American powwow or something. And that's a good idea.
Oh, totally. Yeah, there's also, we had, with Nexus, you went to Nexus at Burning Man before, right?
Totally.
So like the sound system that they use, the Function One, it's not just the sound system, it's how it's dialed. So like you need a good sound person to do that. And we did it different ways. Sometimes we do it like quad with dance stacks, and sometimes we like stack the lows on the lows, mids on the mids, highs on the highs. And we actually did things with that had never been done before. And like we even like a friend of ours like contacted Tony Andrews, who designed the freaking thing, to be like, can this even be done? He's like, well, no one's done it, but let me know how it goes. But you could be standing in front of a full-on dance stack up close. You could stick your head in the bass bin. You're fine. You can carry on a conversation with the person next to you and not have to raise your voice too high, right in front of a full-on dance stack, just bumping like, but it's refined. It's so refined. Like that's what makes for good sound. Actually, I didn't used to understand that. It's like stand in front of the thing. I'm like, how does this sound so good? You say that, and then it's like, it's because they can hear you ask that. Somebody next to you can hear you ask that. Like, wow, how does this sound so good? Well, it's just, it's crazy.
Now, you were saying that the drums or whatever was connected to the heart rhythm. Is this why you think maybe that dubstep listeners are more in shape, it seems?
I mean, I think there's a reason that people that are in shape would like music that you feel all over your body. But so I was just thinking about it. It's like dubstep's not the only thing that does this by any stretch of the means. There's definitely people that are into high speed music, right? Like but also going back. So you have 3D 360 sound systems are invented for Fantasia, and Disney's doing this sort of surround sound thing. People who study that in California are involved with Augustus Stanley Osley, right? Who's making LSD. And so the Grateful Dead are the first band to have something like Fantasia sound. And then that allows them to, because there's delays and distance from cables, to have echoing for also there's like huge shows that are having hundreds of thousands of people that have maybe a kilometer distance between some speakers. So they're able to make this crazy binaural field where you're hearing something on the left side and you're hearing something on the right side the way you normally could only do with your earphones. But this is being broadcast from hundreds of speakers on one side, hundreds of speakers on the other side, and it's and you're inside of that field. So you're hitting not just your ears, you're not just hitting your chest, you're getting your entire body. In the same way, if you go to a powwow, you get that entire rhythm, right? So I think, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. You're saying great stuff. It's just there's stuff I want to add to it. Yeah.
I would bring up drugs and how that affects this as well, probably, because there's always like, you can see when speed and cocaine and everything were a big part of the Grateful Dead and how that affects music. as well. I think dubstep clearly comes out of cannabis culture, so it has a lower heartbeat. But that's not something that continues after Skrillex necessarily, because it became so popular amongst video game kids.
I think there's something weird about dubstep too, that it's one of those few music genres that has such a specific date to it. There's not a lot of different music genres you can be like, oh, that sounds like this year, and dubstep kind of has that.
Totally. Well, it was a short-lived thing as far as its heyday, right? It was like just became hugely popular all of a sudden, and then then people would think that they're going to a festival that was going to just be like huge, and it's like hardly anybody showed up, and that's kind of like dubstep didn't go completely the way of the dodo, kind of transmuted into something else. But then but I was going to say is like what you were saying about Fantasia. That's a really good point. Fantasia was a flop when it first came out, even despite being, it was so ahead of its time, right? And so much about the sound, because that was the whole thing. Is he basically made like a sync film with symphonic music,
totally.
right? Like, and they explain it at the beginning, like they tell you exactly what it is that they're doing, but then it became hugely popular in the 60s. So it had like this, and they brought it back into the theaters, and everybody wanted to take acid to go watch Fantasia for a while there, and that was kind of completely tied to 1968 when 2001: A Space Odyssey came out with the tagline "The Ultimate Trip." So it's like encouraging people to take psychedelics when they go to see this movie. It was like a nudge, not as good as a wink to a blind bat kind of thing with that. Like that's at least they're trying to appeal in the advertising in that way. Like this is a mind bending experience, but the sound of 2001 is as significant as it was, like you say, with Fantasia. In fact, it's argued, I think this might even be confirmed. You might know, Alex, those like those cubes or diamonds when they're in Jupiter and Beyond the Infinite, that are like across the screen. Like if you see it widescreen, you can see, I forget how many there are, maybe seven. Yeah. So it said that those specifically are supposed to be relaying what the sound system is. So the way that for the Cinerama, the way that the sound system was set up was like new, specific. It was made specific for 2001: A Space Odyssey, and like the main, like the big places where it was initially showing, like in the premiere and stuff, like they had this way of dialing the sound that hadn't been done before. I'd have to look up the particulars. It's been a while, but I guess there's a strong argument for that's supposed to be representing the speakers themselves or where they're situated or whatever, the way that they show you that. And yeah, I think Rob
like
Agger
a calibration thing, or like
that they're communicative of that. There's actually a giant sync around 2001: A Space Travesty and his death too, because he's a star child in that,
But I think also
too.
I don't think that Disney had planned for the original 1940s Fantasia that everyone was going to be taking mushrooms, even though they were watching people dancing that were mushrooms. I honestly think he was looking for that magical experience where you didn't need drugs in order to expand your mind, which is something that wasn't necessarily what everyone needed in World War II. But by the 60s, you have people that are just trying to expand their mind instantly. Anyway,
don't you think that those people working for Disney were just high as hell too? Because I was told that this has been a thing that goes back to the beginning, that Walt was a secret, participant when it came to psychedelic use, like all the way through his career.
I think he was kind of a hypocrite and didn't really like people working for him to have a mustache like he had a mustache, or like to smoke like he smoked, or he really kind of wanted people to work hard on his ideas, and he couldn't draw a mouse.
This should have been the full, like this movie. How much time do we have for this section of the Dolly movie that was made? It's like 15 minutes or something.
No, they finished it now, and during Fantasia 2 in 1999, they used computer graphics. I think ILM helped them do it.
Yeah, Fantasia 2000.
Yeah, and they
the original Dolly movie. There was going to be a full movie. This was a pitch.
Well, the original premise of Fantasia, though, was that they were going to make a whole bunch of them. And I mean, originally it was that they were going to go around the country showing off Fantasia, and every time you would go, you might see different little clips, and it would be accompanied by different music, and depending on what city and what time of year you went, you would get a different version of Fantasia. And then the Dali one, it took like, I don't know, like 100 years. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it took a very long time. They're like 50 years to finally get it done, because it never made the original cut, and then here we've got
there's
Fantasia
a
2000.
full feature of the Dolly movie.
No, it's like 15 minutes long.
That is the full clip of it.
For,
But it was
for those 15 minutes, right.
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah, well, exactly, because Fantasia has all these different shorts, and they were going to replace songs as time went on forever, right, with new videos, but no one cared about it.
That's kind of sad because that kind of reminds me of like Alejandro Jodorowsky's Dune, like that people would refer to as the greatest movie never made or whatever. But he wanted Salvador Dali to be in that movie, and he was like going to do a trick where it was like he's going to say he was the highest paid actor that had ever happened in any movie, but he was going to only have him for one brief scene and then have like a stand-in for the rest or something that was like funny. Do you know what I'm talking about? You probably saw that documentary.
Did with Brad Pitt. They just had him as a dog barking, so they just bark like.
You're talking about George Clooney? You're talking
George
about
Clooney, yeah.
Yeah, totally. Dude, that's so funny that you'd say that. I just talked about that. With somebody like super recently. I brought up George Clooney as the dog because you guys told me, one of you told me that Elon Musk was actually, they used his voice for that, for what is it, season 19 or 20? Yeah. So
for what? Season 20 of what?
Himself, like he's himself in the movie, like it's actually Elon Musk's voice.
Yeah.
Oh, really? So to add on to the heart thing, because this is kind of interesting, because the "They're Not Like Us" song won all the Grammys, and it performed at the biggest television show in the world, the Super Bowl, where they were playing the song "Not Like Us," which is directly connected to the heart rhythm. Even the National like Heart Association or whatever approved the song for CPR, kind of like staying alive. And a lot of decoders have shown there's a lot of heart stuff where that guy falls on the field and then they throw up like the little heart symbol as well. So I bet you there's something there with different beats and stuff. Like, why did everyone like just resonate with that song? And it could be on a like a somatic level.
Yeah, if you're trying to use a song for that, don't use Pink Floyd's Money because it'll totally throw it off and they might die.
Really?
I'm just saying because the count is weird. Sorry. But it came to mind because Dark Side of the Moon begins and ends with a heartbeat, which is the rainbow wrapping around. So if you actually have that record, like if you have Dark Side of the Moon on LP and you look at the jacket of it, the way that the beam connects to the beam in the back, because there's a triangle facing one way and a triangle facing the other in the front and the back. You have a Star of David in the in Dark Side of the Moon, but you only see one side at a time. So it's kind of like there's no Dark Side of the Moon really. As a matter of fact, it's all dark. So like the beam connects and the rainbow connects to itself. So it's an infinite loop, which is like the album itself, which you loop it if you're watching it with the Wizard of Oz, black and white, back to black and white. Yeah, it's trippy.
Wow. Or 2001.
Or 2001. It's true.
I've heard that particular album syncs with a lot of movies because it was structured similar to how a movie would be structured.
Dark Side of the Moon will sync with absolutely everything. You could play it with Wheel of Fortune. It doesn't matter. But in my experience, it doesn't sync as well as it does with the Wizard of Oz, with anything else, except maybe 2001: A Space Odyssey, especially if you're high.
Is this because of what you're saying, paranoid? Because every film is the same?
Because there's a formula to the way.
That more like that. Yeah, like the Pink Floyd kind of exposes the same formula, the same algorithm, so it meshes really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you almost can't go wrong. Everything will sync with everything to some degree, but sometimes it crosses a line. Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon crosses a definite line with the Wizard of Oz in very specific places all throughout, where you're like, wait a minute, though, really though. And then if you're looking here with the Wiz syncs with Goodbye Yellow Brick Road like nobody's business. I'm trying to tell people about this for years. But Blood Lies Bleeding in My Hand, Funeral for a Friend, the way that the lines, like if you started at the beginning of the film. I have this on my Twitter, by the way, in my highlights somewhere. And it's also on the website. But so like when they go to the two towers in this movie and they go around that sphere that the designer of the two towers had placed between them, that they rotated every 24 hours to symbolize the Kaaba at Mecca, which I have screenshots of from Wikipedia. Luckily, they've since removed it. So Wikipedia will no longer tell you. It was a quote from the architect of the two towers telling you that that sphere was symbolic of the Kaaba at Mecca, and that they rotated it once every 22 hours, or 24 hours, excuse me, to represent the people who do the pilgrimage, like rotating around the cube. So that's just crazy. But so anyway, that they dance around that cube in the middle of the film, and like that whole portion is like, well, as far as like sync films go, it's one of the most epic, like can work as a like the ultimate kind of music video in and of itself, but like they're keep looking up at the two towers as the Emerald City. Have you seen that before? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I just have to comment that this is my favorite movie, The Wiz, otherwise known as Bodo. I don't know why you brought that up, but I love this movie.
This is another Wiz. I've seen this.
Have you seen this movie, Bodo?
Yeah,
The Wiz?
Yeah, a long time ago when I was a kid.
Oh my god, that is like the weirdest Oedipus thing. I don't know. Like he
I need to watch it as an adult now.
I'll send it. Also, I have it only in German. He shotguns his mother, the clone. So this kid won't do. He's not masculine enough. So his rich parents, are having him to take fencing classes with this psychiatrist, and then he's got the supercomputer because it's like 1982. Or 87 because it's Germany. He builds a cloning rig, and he has an egg, and he puts his blood and his DNA, and he clones himself, but he makes himself like more masculine and more in charge, more alpha. And this dude like dances with his mother, this clone of himself, and it makes his mother feel young. And then his mother like is there, and he takes his mother's cigarette, and then he puffs it, and he's like 13. And then like she shotguns him, and they're about to make out, and then she's like, "Whoa, what's going on?" It's like the craziest movie.
Wait, are you talking about Whiz Kid still?
No, this is Wiz. You just showed the wrong trailer. That VHS you have there is not the Wiz Kids. That's
this
the Wiz.
Is the one I'm talking about. The whole time you're talking, Andreas was like, "What the hell are you talking about?" That's not what I remember this being. But okay.
Isn't that it? The Wiz Kid, right? That's the one.
Oh, this is it.
Wiz Kid. Yeah, it's like Bodo.
I think I am thinking about another movie anyway, and I'm not thinking of The Wizard. I was looking at the cover of that, and it reminded me of something else.
You're talking about the one where the kids.
Yeah, Bodo is a kid with abnormally high intelligence, a samurai sword-toting father, and a robotic orangutan.
Pop on my screen for a second. Pop on my screen. And so this movie's got this great song by this Polynesian German dude named Taco. And it's like, I'm heavy metal, simply heavy metal. And that's his hot mom. And then he's like, look, he's cucking himself. He's outside the window watching as the clone of himself comes down the stairs in perfect 80s garb and starts dancing with his own.
Dude, did you go back in time and make this, Andreas?
Bro, this movie made me. I'm pretty sure like a big part of why I'm screwed up is this movie. I don't know. Oh, wait, come back. It's happening. It's about to happen. They're going to do the thing. I'm sorry. They're going to dance. They're dancing with the robot. He's got a flower in his hand, and then he's going to spin her around. They do a little like, this is just, look, he's no shirt, the chaps, and then they just make out. They're going to do it. He's kissing her. She's like, what's happening, man? Whoa. Yeah, dude, and then here it comes. This is not okay for kids or grown-ups. Nobody really. This is the South Parkian, not for anybody. And then she's like, I'm too old for this. He's too young. It's my son.
Well, we got a little carried away there, didn't we?
Someone's gonna need some therapy besides me.
If we're talking about movies that screwed us up as kids, this is the one. I can pinpoint the exact moment that I stopped trusting reality. It was this movie.
This movie, I realized movies like this. So I thought the world was going to be a very different place. I thought everyone needed to know karate. Like I thought, I seriously thought it was like a driver's license. And this movie made me think that Canada, this movie made me love Canada because it made me think, okay, well, the world is like that, just further north. That's the thing. It's not like that
but
here.
You didn't think that quicksand was going to be a bigger problem for you later in life?
Dude, I literally still kind of worry about quicksand. Come on.
What movie was that?
That was the peanut butter solution.
Peanut butter solution, that's right. Yeah, it's about a kid who gets scared to death. And he's so frightened that he loses all of his hair. But then, he just does the thing. Like, as you know, you just put peanut butter on your hair under full moon. That's like a French-Canadian trick that always works. But his hair grows too fast. And then, like, the kids are cutting his hair in class because it won't stop growing. And the teacher's, like, annoyed because the scissor sounds are so loud. And yeah. This movie's so good. Oh man.
And that's not even at the end of the movie. Spoiler alert, it's hard to spoil this movie, but they're all going into this weird assembly line workshop where these big machines are harvesting their hair. and that they've all been kind of like programmed to come here, and then someone jumps through a magical painting. It gets wild. It gets very surreal immediately.
Human trafficking from like these French occultists. It's pretty decent.
I wonder if it's related to in The Visitor when there's the whole classroom of bald children and
totally
being lectured by Jesus. And then 10 years later, it's the peanut butter. Well, actually, I don't know when the peanut butter solution came out.
Well, that was 1979
85.
or 1980, or no, I mean for The Visitor.
Trolls 2.
Troll 2.
Troll.
Yeah. What is his name? I can't think right now. Andros Jones is in that.
The really crappy film.
Yeah, Andros has a part in that movie actually.
Yeah, it's a good movie. It's really bad.
Oh, it's awful.
Yeah, there's no.
It's the point of pride for him, though. You know,
there's no Troll 1. There's only a Troll 2.
There is Troll 1.
There's a Troll 1.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's
not as good as Troll 2. Though.
I wish that there was no Troll 1. We need more movies like that. There is no.
Just starts on 6, like Star Wars.
I watched a bunch of like random movies because they inspire me, and I just watched a recent one, and I wish I remember the name. Let me pull it up real quick on my Amazon account because I liked it. It was like they went to this town where they do these rituals, and they're like, "Oh, we just want to go see the ritual," and it was good. Let me see if I can find it.
You gotta get the title.
It was Midsommar.
These days, every town
was a great movie. Yeah.
So many things.
Have you seen MacGruber?
Of course.
That movie's so freaking
familiar, but I have to see.
MacGruber is
it's hilarious.
All-time classic.
I just watched Guyver with Mark Hamill, which was weird. The Japanese movie by Screaming Mad George. It's like an American Japanese monster movie. So it looks, oh man, the Guyver. It's like I'll find you.
Are they related? MacGruber and MacGyver? What is it?
MacGruber is a parody of MacGyver, starring Will Forte. It was like a Saturday Night Live sketch.
Oh yeah, that's more recent.
Check out my screen for a second.
Fucking hilarious.
The Guyver is this movie. It's super, it has that vibe. It has
looks like him too.
Japanese monster vibe, and but it's and Mark Hamill plays. This is like the second one or something. Mark Hamill plays like this anime kind of cop guy. Where's the trailer?
That looks tight.
It's crazy.
I got good movies to watch tonight.
That's Super Gremlins inspired, though, right?
Super Gremlins inspired, and it has like all these weird people, like the Mad Max guy.
Oh yeah, that guy. He's in The Hills Have Eyes, right? The guy to the left. Is that who you're talking about?
Yeah, and then here's Mark Hamill as the detective.
Totally. But yeah, so that guy, that bald guy, he's in My Science Project, and he's in Weird Science, which came out back to back. They're super close together. Have you ever noticed the parallels between Weird Science and My Science Project? They both got that guy in it for some reason. It's like those movies strange attract. Remember My Science Project? You guys know what the hell I'm talking about?
I remember that movie.
It seemed like a John Hughes movie, but it certainly wasn't. It's like a bunch of teenagers with this weird orb thing that like opens up another portal to another dimension. I'm talking about.
What
Is it like an 80s New York?
Yeah. It was like it came out at the same time, really close proximity to Weird Science. But yeah, and they just have a ton of synchronistic parallels. Like they were just like playing off of it.
Oh yeah.
I watched Mazes and Monsters last night with old Tommy.
You watched that last night?
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's an interesting go, but it ties to something that I wanted to mention, or like a sync here that I just discovered that will be in my kind of a preview of my upcoming thing I'm writing on the David Lynch death. and which gets into the fact that on David Lynch's midpoint was the day that the movie The Man with One Red Shoe came out.
Oh God.
And so I'm going deep into The Man with One Red Shoe.
No.
And so, okay, in Tom Hanks in Mazes and Monsters, if you don't know, early TV role about a like real life Dungeons and Dragons game. This kid he plays a kid who gets like sucked into the game. He can't tell reality from the game, and the whole thing climaxes is with him on top of the World Trade Center, which to him are the two towers. He's in this mythological reality. And anyway,
From Tolkien, to be clear, yeah.
So that associated him with 9/11. Now, what I just found while I was watching The Man with One Red Shoe, Tom Hanks's character, there's a lot there, but one thing is his character's name is Richard Drew. And there's a Twin Peaks connection that I'm working
Andy
into it all.
Backwards.
Yeah, that's true. Well, okay, so I didn't know what it meant or what the Drew part. I had Richard is because it's the Twin Peaks connection, but Richard Drew, and then just the other day on Twitter, what do I find? The name the fall on 9/11, the falling man picture, the picture of the falling guy. The photographer who took that picture's name is Richard Drew.
No, dude. So while you're talking, before that, I have to interrupt you to tell you that I'm visualizing the falling man. And when you're describing the two towers, why? Because that's referenced in that movie. What is it called? With Tom Hanks, called Incredibly Loud and something close. What is it called?
Extremely Loud, Incredibly Close, I think.
Yeah, where he's what is he, a firefighter or something? What is he dies on 9/11, right? He's just somebody in the building.
Dad who dies. And
right,
this guy even looks like Tom Hanks.
In the movie, they say, could he have been that? Is there another movie where they address the falling man in the two towers? Like, this is a Hollywood movie that centers around the idea that his kid is like, is my dad like one of those people who fell out of the towers, right? I mean, I saw it a long time ago. I'm trying to remember.
I haven't actually watched that one, so I need to.
Okay, so just so you know, for sync purposes, that might be
a long thing of Tom Hanks associated with 9/11 and
because he's contemplating jumping off of the two towers, and then years later, he's in a movie where his son thinks he's one of the people that jumped off of the two towers, and so like, but you're talking, and I'm visualizing the falling man. And then you just come out with that. Like, that's so specific. Just how to say that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's so like the iconic image of 9/11, basically. And I don't know. Richard Drew is a pretty specific name. Yeah. He pulled a picture up of him. I'm just looking at it. I'm like, even my really conspiratorial hat on. It's like, is this Tom Hanks in drag? Like, everybody is Tom Hanks. But well, yeah,
he's the king then, right? Because that's the thing, is that if you look at the Rider-Waite, and I think even the Marseille Tarot, I can't remember. I'm out of practice, man. But in the Rider-Waite, you see the king and the queen falling out of the tower when it's hit, right? So the lightning struck tower, right? And it's got the crown on top. So it symbolizes like that he's like, oh, they've crowned him, and the king's lost his crown, you know? So like he to represent, like, if the pedestal that we put somebody on only to turn around and scapegoat them or whatever, like whether valid or not, whatever the case, that's a weird one too. Like, anthropologically, the scapegoat was traditionally guilty. It wasn't until Christianity that we treated it as a scapegoat was innocent, right? Like the innocent scapegoat. But like, for like, what is Tom Hanks? Like, we started this conversation kind of like pointing that out. But like, if you look at the Arcana, like that's kind of the idea, is like the tower has been struck by the lightning, and then here is the king. Like, you know, was this God's punishment, or is this just happenstance? Like, what is it? I don't know. Just put it out there.
Well, I mean, with Tom Hanks, it's like, I don't know. There's no real proof that the guy's a pedophile or whatever, but there's like just like lots of weird symbolism that's going on in his
single articles of clothing, and he's in this movie early on, The Man with One.
Yeah, which is that a direct reference to his early role? But then what is the role all about, and what does it mean? And it's what the role is about a guy who is, well, he's a musician who gets basically unwittingly sucked into an intelligence world. And so the fact that he has one red shoe is like the defining feature of him that gets him picked out of the crowd and thrust into this game unwittingly and so the idea of having one red shoe in this whole idea of the red shoes cult or whatever, like one red shoe is Is he a dabbler? Is he an agent? Is he what is he? You know. But he's also the first guy that got COVID, so he's clearly just an intelligence fucking.
Right. Have they just been screwing with him the whole time? Like, has that just been, he's just like, I don't know. Like, I know I've said that, postulated on that earlier, but that's where I always go with that. I'm like, what the freak do we know? Especially when you're just like, what do you have to go on? The symbolism? Yeah. He's been cast in all those movies. It's not like he casted himself in Castaway. He's always been like placed in those roles. And then also, that's the thing is that like, how many of these people have you ever heard any, like, a lot of these actors, this is what Twitter did to me. I may have said this recently, but I'll say it again. Like, I didn't realize until like getting into Twitter, like how I had assumed so much about so many celebrities because everything that I ever heard from them, practically ever, was all scripted. And I'm like, wait, I saw them in this movie. I saw them in musicians too, you know, where it's just like, I mean, I don't know, like, what do these people even think themselves? And you find out that some of them are absolute morons. And some of the people who are like only in slapstick, silly stuff, you find out that they're like super intelligent. And it's like, you can't go by appearances when things are scripted. You know what I mean? So like for somebody like Tom Hanks, he's one of those. And I have very little to go on other than him literally reciting a script in different character roles. You know, like who is he? I don't know. I've never, you know, very little.
He's so boring in interviews. He's a different person when they interview him than when he acts. And that's why I always tell people they don't like Tom Hanks. They like the director.
I want to see him on Joe Rogan. That's what I want to see. I want to see Tom Hanks go on Joe Rogan and settle, who, you know, just communicate who he is and his whole deal, like for 3 hours.
Isn't he? He might be dead.
That was the last time we've seen Tom Hanks. Leonardo DiCaprio. I wonder what's going on with him now that Kamala lost and he was counting on that. He was banking on that over his connection with the Diddy stuff. Like, what's happening with some of these people? I don't even know.
We
There's another movie I just watched, a remake of The Count of Monte Cristo, which is one of my favorite films. But this new one, it was good, but it wasn't as great. The story writing is the last one. But what they changed, which I don't think it is involved in the original book, the treasure that he goes to find is Knights Templar treasure. So the whole movie, spoiler alert, just like the other one, how the CIA was the good guys, that the Knights Templars are the good guys in the Count of Monte Cristo. So the whole power story is about the last living Knights Templar to take over.
You know, supposedly that's based on a book, I heard. No, just kidding, obviously.
Yeah. Well, I haven't read it, but I heard that in the book, the ending is like just tragic and terrible. I've never read it, but because
there's a message. It's like restoration. It's like everything's cyclical, right? So he loses everything, he gets everything back. I've never seen the movie, but the idea is there's a moral to it, which is wait and hope. You know, like, because you don't know, even when you're at your lowest point, what it could be if you just kind of like just be patient and stick to it. It's kind of like If or something, you know, the poem by Rudyard Kipling. Like that's kind of like. You
haven't seen the first one, or I mean, the one that came out like in the 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
It's
no, I've never seen a movie of the Count of Monte Cristo, and I saw that came out recently, but I haven't watched it yet. So yeah,
the new one wasn't that great. The old one that came out like 2000s. The acting, the writing is superb. It's Sabarashi.
It's got Jesus in it.
It's got subtitles like for like, what do I know?
Yeah, there's subtitles in the new one. So it's
how can you judge somebody's acting if you don't speak the languge? I mean, I guess like I can't tell.
The acting's good. It's just that this one from 2000, it could be because I'm reading it. You're right. But I love it. There's so many like little cool things, like when he rises to power. Have you read the 48 Laws of Power?
Mm-mm.
This came out around the same time where he talks about using your words like strategically, and the rise of power of Count of Monte Cristo. When he shows up on a balloon, it's this extravagant event that's just like jaw-dropping and amazing, and everyone's like holding on to like, what's he gonna say? And all he says is greetings or something, and then walks off. It's just like it's a straight up like power movie if you like that psychology.
It sounds like Willy Wonka in your description, but yeah, I dig it.
Well, except Willy Wonka feigns to be like an invalid and then he tumbles, and that's supposed to change your whole impression, right?
Right. You don't know what this person is. You think you know.
Pretty
And so from
tepid.
that point forward, you really don't know, because now he's saying, "Oh, this is what I really am." But you're like, "Is that what you really are? Like, what are you?" You know? Yeah, totally.
Shout out to Gene Wilder.
Well, if you want to learn a lot about Willy Wonka and Gene Wilder, read my thing. It's Purple Rained on my website. I was going to bring it up earlier because you're talking about disaster movies, and there was one that I wrote about in there called Meteor from 2009, and it came out on the midpoint between Snowpiercer and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and it was a 2-week thing, like a 4-hour TV movie. Yeah, it's behind the paywall there. You got to pay me to read it at the moment. But and so Meteor, it's got Christopher Lloyd in it and Jason Alexander, and it's this whole like crazy movie which is worth watching in itself. But the sync was that on the same day, there was observed on the planet on Jupiter, something struck Jupiter. There was an impact event on Jupiter. A meteor hit Jupiter on the same day that the TV show Meteor aired on TV with Christopher Lloyd and Jason Alexander and several other people. So it's kind of, it's all on this grid with the Willy Wonka movies that I've through time. So it's,
so you know, like
Meteor, that's the one at the top.
Having read that article from you when it wasn't behind a paywall, I gotta say, dude, like, I need to look at your more recent ones too, but I feel like there's some Cassandra shit going on. Like, I feel like in the things that are written there regarding Elon Musk and like the whole archetypal like sync web thing, like I really feel like that's going to become more and more like have further deep implications into the future. Like it's highly worth checking out to anybody like that's not Alex isn't messing around with that analysis. Like it's intense.
Thanks.
So,
yeah. I appreciate it. Yeah, I guess I'm pulling it up myself here to see, but the one thing I noticed that the specific that I pointed out was that Christopher Lloyd's character, he dies like really abruptly. He just like gets hit by a car. It's just like the most like random shit ever. And I did the timing of it, of when it happens in the thing, and it's 1,554 seconds, which is 777 plus 777. seconds is when he gets hit by a van, which has got Back to the Future kind of resonances because it's a speeding bullet. The van that hits him actually has the number 7 on it. And it hits him at 777 times 2 seconds. And it's interesting.
Yeah, totally. Well, I mean, just we talk about numbers, but like for you're dropping, you're like, there's all of these 7s in a row. Like historically, like the giant crash that happened with the stock market so many years ago, like that was all a row of 7s, like the date, like shit, it keeps happening like that. But like, that's the lightning flash, right? So like Kabbalistically, like the significance of 777 has everything to do with, that's the gematria. If you add up the pathways of the lightning flash that's of creation that extends through the Kabbalistic tree described in the Sefer Yetzirah, ancient Kabbalistic text, like if you do a treatment of it with the European attributions used by the OTO and the Golden Dawn and all of that, you have this. So that's represents the Shefa, like that's the actual like emanated flow from, that's like our ultimately like in terms of identity, like this is what animates all of creation. And then around that you have like 216, 666, like the numerology is not like, it points to the shells that surround that suckle on that. Like it's weird to like describe these things. Like I'm just talking Zohar stuff, but like, when you describe this, in other words, like I have a different experience than a lot of people probably have. Like when you like tell me what numbers are in relationship to something, like I have this whole different set of associations that I share with like people from a range of secret societies because they use the same symbol sets. So whether or not you're talking about Freemasons or the OTO or the Golden Dawn or, Paul Foster Cases, the builders of the New Adaitum and all these different people, like they're all sharing in the same stuff. If you know those associations, when you're describing like an event or you're saying something about, hey, Trump on this day, et cetera, like and I'm not alone in this, but like that's the nature of esoterica, is that like I have a whole different communication that's coming through. I just have to iterate that, because it's like, you know, and it's crazy too to be like, I'm thinking this thing that to most people would just sound totally fucking random, right? You're like, what the hell are you talking about? But it's not something that's completely exclusive, you know, like that's something that all of these different people are ascribing to, or are making the same associations with. If you look at Crowley's book 777, you know, like it's all laid out, all of these correspondences, and they're all being applied by all these different people. So even if it's all made up, they're still sharing in this mass set of correspondences. It's crazy.
Well,
There
we got
Thanks for pulling that up.
7 planets are aligning on the last day of February. So I wonder if there's something there.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they were.
There's what do you call that? It's not an occultation. You're talking about it's the great conjunction. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Hey, go back to that the Javier Milei thing, because I want to.
Oh, and speaking of the OTO too, on the Elon viral image of him, it says OTO on it.
The viral image
of him in the car that's like viral right now.
I haven't seen this one.
I don't know what you're referring to. You're talking about in a Cybertruck or something?
It's a Tesla and it's street art, but it's super viral. And it says 0 to 1939. But the
it's an advertisement in London right now, or I think in Europe somewhere. Yeah,
but it's saying 02, which is OTO.
Interesting. I got you. Huh.
Somebody shared that. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's trippy. Totally. It's also got Back to the Future implications, when really they're just trying to say he's a Nazi. So that's become like a totally acceptable thing right now, is to like spray paint Cybertrucks with swastikas and just like call this guy not. So I mean,
like every single Jewish person I know in my like being Jewish, nobody thinks that.
I've never reported anything on Facebook ever that I can remember until yesterday. And so like I was just, you know, I barely use Facebook, but I have been lately, you know. Ever since Zuckerberg went on Joe Rogan, I've been like, I'll dabble in Facebook a little bit. And I'm scrolling along and I see an image of an overpass that has a poster on it, hanging from it, that has a picture of Elon Musk doing his Heil, and it says "Wanted, Dead or Alive," and it has "Alive" crossed out. And then it wasn't even just that; it was like their caption is like, you know, the resistance is happening or something like that. And so I was just like, you know what? This is literally a death threat, you know, against a specific person that's basically saying, could somebody kill this person? So I was like, you know what? I'm going to report something here. And what's funny is that relatively recently, I talked about this on the show, I got an image removed and a penalty from Facebook for sharing the Raelian image, of which Elon Musk is an honorary member, which is just a symbol of of Raelianism.
Yeah.
Raelianism. And so like I share that symbol. They gave me a strike for it. They took down the image. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to report this. I immediately get a thing back saying, we've looked at the image. We see nothing wrong with it. We're going to leave it up. So it's like, it says, and then there's a thing at the bottom that says more options. So I click on more options and it's just like says this link is either broken or to a page that doesn't exist. So I go to the thing again to like redo it and go to more options, and I get the same message. And I'm like, I don't even know. I think it's programmed this way. Like, I don't think I'm supposed to have another option. And they're just like, and I was just like, this is not somebody that I know that was sharing it. This is a promoted post from Facebook. So I'm like, they're promoting a post that is literally calling for the death of somebody, like him or not, you know, whatever. But I'm like, this is like, it's getting into weird times. It's like this Luigi guy. It's like this whole thing where it's like, well, in certain cases, it's acceptable to say.
Yeah, everyone loves the Luigi guy.
Yeah. So anyway, like, I'm not even, and this kind of ties to what you and I were talking about recently, Thomas. I think it was last week, about the free speech questions, because I was like, I think all drugs should be legal with the exception of salvia. My issue here is just that I was like, dude, I've been removed from Facebook for saying things that ended up being okay to say a couple weeks later or a month later or whatever it was. And like, here's this thing that's like literally like a call to murder somebody. And like, you can't, it's like somehow, no, that's cool. And we want you to see it. And, you know, like, it's like, well, you can block that person. It's like, but this is going viral. Like, why, you know? And I'm not even like, oh my god, I can't. Like, it's not like that. Like, I don't have like any internal reaction to it. It's just like, you know what? It's more objective. It's like, if you guys are going to have community standards at all and talk about calls to violence or whatever, when one's right in your face and you have the option to report, isn't this the instance where you'd use that? Like, I don't know. Like, it just seems like this is what this is for. This is like the function of the thing. And then they're just like, no, screw you. We don't like him. What if it was somebody that people liked? Like it had said wanted, dead or alive, with a picture of them with alive crossed out, you know? Like, it's like, you know, I don't know.
I noticed on Facebook, because I've been removed multiple times, been removed pretty much everywhere. And Facebook really promotes a lot of hatred, and that goes viral. You know, it's wild. And so I look at these accounts, I'm like, who are these like accounts? And I watch them closely. And once in a while they'll like have an ego trip because they're anonymous accounts, and then once in a while they'll like post a picture of them, and you're like, what this is who's running the account? What the heck? Like, yeah, it's I've been doing like a deep study on like mad accounts for years, and because it seems like they're connected to some sort of state kind of propaganda.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, somebody said you should put the same post up with Zuckerberg. Good call. See what happens. There, I'll just get kicked off for good again.
Well, I think we're over the 2-hour mark, so let's start doing all the plugs. I can't do it in typical Andreas fashion. I would try my best, but I would fall flat. But I guess we'll start out. If you go to cryptocubrology.com and go check out Alex's website, he's got some of the coolest breakdowns. That Purple Rain that he was talking about before is a multi-part series about Willy Wonka and the world. This is not just mythology. This is your life. To quote roughly, to paraphrase Stanley Kubrick. What does the quote go?
Oh God, David knows that one better than me.
You just saying that? You just said it. This isn't mythology. This is your life. What is it like? What are you? What?
But applying it to Willy Wonka, I guess.
This isn't cryptocubrology. This is your life.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's true. It's the science behind coincidence. It's new systematic study of synchronicity. And I've started a podcast, which is just sort of for funsies. But my real heavy work is text based. I got one up that's for free. Most recent one is Stanley is a Bear. It's all about kind of the beginnings of Crypto K and subliminal bears, which, you know, you can figure out what that is if you read it. And so please, check it out.
And yeah, we did have a super chat. I'll go ahead and read it from Doc Fortune, who was right in the middle of a sync where my Cherie was like, Doc, and we were talking about Doc, and we went on a whole tangent. The Doge of Venice was the head of state and the head of the Venetian oligarchy, while the Podesta was a ruler for something that my mouse is covering up.
Venetian possessions?
So are we talking about black nobility here?
There's something trippy about that.
Venetian oligarchy.
Yeah, thank you. We're going to have to look into that one. Thank you, Doc.
No, it's super connected. Yeah, Doge is for the Doge of Venice for sure.
We didn't talk anything about crypto. It's too bad.
Well, we did the Brad Garlinghouse thing.
Briefly.
Dude, how about Ellen and Ashton Kutcher? I never knew that Ashton Kutcher dropped like 3.4 million XRP on Ellen DeGeneres.
Yeah, I just found that out the other day. That's like,
well, this almost feels like proof of blackmail working. They're broadcasting to the world, look, here's this blackmail payment that's going on, or here, I just bought everything in her Wayfair catalog.
Right. Good point. That's weird.
We also have I don't know how Andreas does this so fast. He's got everything pulled up. We've also got David Charles Plate, who does sync flicks on the sync book, and it's going to take me a second to pull it up. Go ahead and pitch what you do, David.
All right. Well, I'd say that Donut, you were bringing up earlier the Civil War film. So like I put it in my highlights like while we were talking. I have like, it's kind of crazy. So I played the Civil War film with the new Marilyn Manson album, and that's something. What is it? One Assassination Under God, and the album loops through, right? So I like took the two times that the film would loop, and I put them one on top of the other. So like as it would appear, but they're happening simultaneous, right? And then like I mirrored them up until it gets to the point. So like goes through like 1.5 times or something like that. So I let it go the rest of it normal, if that makes sense. So it's like it's got a crazy effect going on. Oh yeah, so this is the website. I don't have it on the website. This is actually just on my Twitter.
So if you go to thesyncbook.com and you scroll down, and there's this sweet picture of SyncFlix, and you just click on that, and you've got, I don't know how many hundreds of movies you've got on here.
200 films, full feature films for streaming and download. That's like the work of like the last like 27 years or more of my life. So, on my Twitter, I also have highlights, and there's some on there that I don't have on here. So there's a lot on here that I don't have on there. But on my Twitter at MKUltrasound723, there's like if you go on to highlights, it should be at the top is a Civil War one, where it's the film mirrored against itself with like there's a doubling effect. Is that, oh shit, I shared the wrong one. I got to go find it again. Oh, actually, if you click on this, is it a reply to this own? So click like, you know how to look at the comments. So just like, yeah, scroll down. Yeah, there it is. So there's this other version of this is underneath. But yeah, I think you can jump into it. I don't think there's nudity or anything that's going to get us in trouble.
I'm jumping around. It's just not showing any frames as I jump around for some reason.
Oh well, it's not. You didn't. Yeah, push.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, so there you go. So, but yeah, so it's like got this mirror effect. So just give you an idea. It's super psychedelic looking. But yeah, so yeah, so it has this, and then when it gets to the place where the album ends and it starts over in when the second part of the film reaches, you know, the end of the album, then you'll see. It's hard to explain this in words. It's more experiential. But yeah, so see, it goes normal after that with the song, the One Assassination Under God, aligns building up towards the assassination that happens at the end of the movie. So it's pretty nuts.
Oh, strange. That's
yeah. So if you go to the highlights, it's just like, you know, there's.
He has the other song or album, the Kill King 33, for the record. It's a record, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's with Hollywood. So Hollywood pairs with Holy Mountain, which is also somewhere in my highlights and on the website. So, but yeah.
Have you used Mechanical Animal at all?
Yeah. So Mechanical Animal. Oh, don't jump into that one, the Behind the Green Door, because it's porn. So like it was. I just discovered that recently. Actually, that relates to David Lynch too. But no. So Mechanical Animals plays with Valley of the Dolls. So Valley of the Dolls, Mechanical Animals is a crazy total sync. So movie with Sharon Tate, you may have seen it, you may not have. It's a cult classic. It's pretty weird. But anyway, yeah. So thank you for the plug, sir.
And then we've got Donut Factory. I'm trying to pull your title. I'm so
Arigato gozaimasu. Thank you I've been watching SyncTank for years now. So it's so cool to actually be up on here. So thank you for the opportunity. I got the comic coming out with Paranoid, which is absolutely incredible. But what I'm really looking forward to on my YouTube is I'm putting together a Ghost Dog tribute of the film, but connecting it also to the book that the film's based on and mixing it in also with La Samurai, I believe the name is of the French film, going over the samurai code and how I applied it in my life. Thomas produced the music. It sounds like RZA, who also produced the music for the film Ghost Dog. So it's a fun art project that should be coming out maybe in like a week or two.
Oh, there it is. There's you on the Dolphin. Speak
That's
of the
me on the Dolphin,
yeah. Nice.
Yeah,
and then,
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, Sabarashi.
I was just gonna say if Andres isn't here, but again, go into the comments and look for the link to Andreas Xirtus YouTube channel. Subscribe there so that when mine gets taken down, then we can do it on his channel. That's how this works. The only way this works is that we kind of have this mesh network that self-heals itself like a DARPA minefield. So one of them gets taken out and everyone else just kind of rearranges and like make sure that the next person that steps on the mine will actually get a nice little impact from it. And that's the only way is by making sure you follow everyone.
I'll tell you, it's pump up the volume. Keep the air alive. Yeah, you got it.
So I think that's it for a special edition of SyncTank. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, David. Thank you, Donut, for showing up. Thank you, Andreas, for making it all possible. We'll see you guys for the next one.
Bye-bye.
Paranoid. Yo. I scribble my life away, driven to write the page. Will it enlighten your brain? Give you the flight, my plane, paper, the highs ablaze. Somewhat of an amazing feel when it's real, the real, you will engage it. Your favorite, of course, the lord of an arrangement. I gave you the proper results to hit the pavement. If they get emotional, hey, maybe your language, a game, how they playing it well without Lakers. Evade them, whatever the cost, they are the shapeshift. Snakes get decapitated, met is the apex. Execution of flame you out, nuclear bomb distributed at war, rather gruesome for eyes to see. Max them out, then I light my trees. Blow it off in the face, you're despising me for what though? Calculated and rather cutthroat. Paranoid American must be all the blunt smoke for real. Lord, give me a day away, vacate. They wait around to hate whatever they say. Man, it's not in the least bit. We get heavy rotate when a beat hits, so thank us, you're welcome. Fuck the niggas for real, you're welcome. They ain't never had a deal, you're welcome. Man, they lacking appeal, you're welcome. Yet they doing it still, you're welcome.